Hurry up, everyone. Tell your friends to join. We will be starting in another minute. Okay, let's get started. So please tell your friends to join in the meanwhile. They can join in Zoom as well as in the YouTube live stream. So both are open. Okay. So Assalamu alaikum and a very warm welcome to every single one of you here today. Hurry up, everyone. Tell Okay, so let's take a moment to be real. This journey you're on, it isn't easy. It demands more from you than almost anything you have ever done before. And yet, here you are, showing up, still trying, still holding on. And for that, we want to say we see you and we are proud of you. This guidance program isn't just like any other normal ones, it's about you. It's about your effort, your sacrifices, your silent battles, that no one else may ever understand. It's about standing here at the edge of your future and choosing not to give up, even when it hurts, even when you're tired. Whether you're from 27 batch, 26 batch, 25 batch, or you're repeating with the strength to try again, this space is yours. It's the perfect place to find your designation. A space with no judgment, no pressure, just honesty, hope, and direction from those who have been in your shoes. We may be pre medical students today, but not long ago. Okay, not long ago, we were exactly where you are now, anxious, unsure, and desperately needing someone to tell us it is still possible. That's exactly why we created this session, just to communicate with you guys. We didn't want to come here and just speak at you. We wanted to truly connect with you. So we took the time to collect all your struggles, all your questions, and the things that you have been silently carrying all this time through the Google Forms, which many of you filled out. We read each and every one of them. We had meetings and we read each and every one of them. Okay, and we felt those words deeply, to be honest. And because so many of them mirrored what we have been through ourselves. We will be sharing not just strategies, okay? We will be sharing our stories, the mistakes we've made so that you don't have to repeat them, the things we did right that gave us the strength to keep us going, the truths we wish someone told us when we were exactly where you are today. We will be speaking about subject specific challenges, okay, one by one for bio, for chemistry, physics, and then we will take on the general issues so many students face and they never talk about. So, you guys have sent that through your Google Forms. We'll be taking turns to cover each and everything so that you might get a variety of experiences. And, we will be giving individual guidance to students from each batch where we will be having a batch speech. We will be talking to each batch because I know every phase of this journey is going to be different. All right. So, with all of our hearts, welcome. Let's begin. So, first of all, we would like to make a small introduction about us. So, I am Nada Fazlullah. So, some of you might know me. So, I am a pre medical student from Candy. Yeah, so the next. Okay, I actually have disabled unmuting. Sorry for the interruption. Okay, sorry.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. I'm Zainab Zanir, who did my A-levels back in 2024, and I'm also a pre-medical student from Candy, just like Nada and Nawasha also.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. My name is Hawa Shafrin Arafat, and I also did my A-levels 2024, and I'm also a pre-medical student from Candy.
Okay. So, before we move into the subject of today, I would like to give you an overview of this meeting. So, first of all, we will be talking about the general issues, and then we will be moving on to the subject specific issues, bio, physics, and chemistry, and then the 27 batch specific, 26 batch specific, 25 batch, and the repeaters. And then we will be having a small interview, and finally, we will be closing up this meeting with a motivation. Okay, so first of all, let's move on to the general issues. Okay, so the first general issue that we will be addressing today is about distractions. And for that, we have our special distracted mind here today, that is Avasha. So, can you please carry on?
Thank you, Nada, for that introduction. So when it comes to distractions, we all know how intense A-levels can be. So I get so many messages from students asking me, how can I, stop getting distracted? How can I overcome social media distractions during my A-level exams? Like the pressure, the content, the deadlines of social media is a lot, right? And let's be real, social media is fun. It is also addictive, but also one of the biggest enemies of your productivity right now. 5 minutes of an hour of reels turn into an hour of TikToks, an hour of Instagram, an hour of scrolling memes, right? But remember that you don't have to sacrifice your future for a feed refresh. I am a very distracted person. I overcame that barrier. So can you. So it's not impossible. Anything is possible if you put your mind to it. Right. So let's talk about certain ways to stay focused, to fight back against your social media distractions. One of the best ways to fight against social media distractions that I personally carried out as well was using a reward system. So I made a deal with myself, basically saying that every 5 hours I study, I will give myself a 40-minute break on Instagram, watch a movie maybe, scroll through some reels, whatever it was. I would give myself a 45-minute or a 30-minute break, depending on the amount of hours I study, basically creating a reward system for my brain, giving my brain to focus and giving my a chance to focus and a reason to focus as well, making it more productive as well. And personally, something that I did, Nada did, and Zainab did was we deleted the apps. We completely deleted all the apps that caused us distraction. So I deleted Pinterest, Instagram, Tumblr, all of them completely deleted. Because exams are serious, right? So your focus should also be serious. When you talk about A-levels, they are an enormously competitive exam. Less than 1% of the students who are writing this exam, your bio exam or your maths exam in Candy, get into med school or engineering school. Less than 1%, right? So for that amount of competition, you must have an insane amount of focus as well. And anything that is going to distract your focus, that is not beneficial or productive to you in any way, shape whatsoever, why on earth should you entertain that idea? Social media will always be there, but exams are serious. So this is your chance to succeed now. But to people who personally cannot give that up, I don't really think you need Instagram, you need Pinterest, you need Tumblr, any other social TikTok, you need any of these social media devices to during your A levels. But you can log out, you can turn off notifications. You can also, if you can afford it, you can also use a second phone without any social media apps during the study session. Some of you will need phones to look at your PDFs, to look at your other resources. So like make sure you're using a phone that does not have any social media apps. But this is not for everybody. It's only for people who can afford this. Or else you can go old school as well. You can't stop checking your phone. You're extremely distracted. This is an actual issue that is causing so many blocks, so many blocks to your productivity. Just give up your phone, right? So one of the things I personally did during my A-levels is I didn't have a phone. I used my mom's phone, and this is not applicable for everybody because some of you might travel long distances for class. You will need a phone. Some of you, your parents will be working, and therefore you need to be in contact with your parents. You will need a phone. So this is not for everybody. I understand there are issues when it comes to this way of overcoming this problem, but if this is a genuine issue you're going through it, and this is going to cause you serious barriers in your productivity, you can either use those small Nokia phones. You can if you have like traveling issues or parental issues as well. So if you can't give up your phone entirely, at least during your study hours completely give it up. So convert all your PDFs into printed notes. Use textbooks instead of looking through PDFs on a screen. Use hard copy instead of soft copy as well. I think that's another way to overcome that issue as well. You can also have accountability partners. So basically what me and Nanda Zainab did was we teamed up basically as a friend, as a group, and we shared the goals that we basically had. We checked in on each other every now and then to make sure we weren't distracted, to make sure that we weren't going off track, right? Because when someone is watching, when someone is egging you on, you work harder. Some people personally didn't work for me, but some people visual reminders work. So they like stick post-its on their phones. They have a password specifically reminding them to study. It can work as well to some people. You can also have, but I think is one of the best ways to overcome this issue, is a notification detox. You turn off your notifications. You have no vibrations, you have no sounds, you have no pop-ups. When you have this notification cleanse, less buzzing because the notifications will make you study more, right? And ultimately, remember why. Why are you here? Why are you doing this? Are you doing this for your parents? Are you doing this for your career, for a dream that you had ever since you were small, to feel proud of yourself, right? Because at the end of the day, every single person in your family, in your school, your friends, everyone around you is going to call you and ask you for your results. And that feeling, I cannot put that into words. I'm not telling you to study because of that, but I'm telling you there is an insane amount of people looking at you, people judging you right now. So don't give them a chance to be happy at your failure. So if this is something that you can control, even though it is impossible right now, it looks impossible, it has been done before. People who are more distracted than you, people who have had more distractions than you, have overcome this issue. So yes, you can as well. And one of the ways in which you can overcome this issue is to use tech to beat tech. One of the things that Zainab did here was she used an extension. So we'll be sending the link of that extension here. So the extension was Focus Guard. And basically, when you type in a website, www.youtube.com, for example, it prevents you from going into that website. You can also unblock that website. So if you're somebody like somebody who's very distracted and you find yourself frequently unblocking and watching YouTube videos, for example, you can also set up a password to prevent yourself from going into the YouTube hole all the time. And you can give that password to somebody in your house who's constantly around you, and they know the password. You don't know the password. And whenever you need to watch a recording, whenever you need to like have a break, a well-deserved break, you can ask that person to put in the password and let you in to the website as well. So these things can work as well. You can use tech to beat. This is only one suggestion. There are many other suggestions you guys can ask around your seniors, ask around teachers. I'm sure they'll find they have different ways in which tech can be used to beat tech as well, right? And just to end it on a good note, social media is tempting, but it is also stealing your time, right? Your A-levels are just one chapter, but they will shape the next 10 chapters of your life. So these are, yes, the beginning, but they are the beginning. Your entire life is going to be determined by this. So ask yourself, are you feeding distraction, or are you building discipline? Because discipline now means you're completely free later on, right? After my A-level exams, I came home. The day my physics exams ended, I downloaded Instagram, I downloaded Pinterest, I downloaded Tumblr. Every app that I deleted, I downloaded, and it was worth it. The feeling you get It was so worth it. And trust me on that. So just delete those apps. You don't need them. They're not necessary for you. They're just stealing your time. You got this. Believe in yourself. Cut the noise. Choose your future and show everybody what you're made of. Thank you.
So the next most general issue that you all have mentioned was about online classes. So we have Zainab here to convey on online classes and the difference between online classes and physical classes, and how do you cope with that?
Thank you, Nada. And Avasha, you delivered such an insightful talk on dealing with distractions. That was very nice. Thank you, Avasha, for that. Now let's talk about online classes. After COVID-19, most of us got introduced to online learning, right? So like everything else, it also has its own pros and cons. But personally, I think if you are self-motivated and disciplined enough, online classes can actually be great. And I personally followed online classes for most of my A-level classes. Um, Honestly speaking, online classes are more flexible than physical classes, but be careful not to turn that flexibility into laziness. Some people just log into the class and they sleep throughout the class, or they just study for 10 minutes, walk around for another 15 minutes, and then they come back. By the time they come back and join the class, the sir would have taught half of the lesson, so that's pointless. That's not learning. Sure, for sure, your teacher might see you are present, but who are you really fooling? Isn't it you who are you? Isn't it who you are fooling? So stop fooling yourself that way. You're wasting your time, you'll regret it later. So be strict with yourself. No one else can do that for you. Um, Next, it's about how you should be treating the online classes. One thing that everyone should be having deep in mind is to treat the online classes just like the physical classes. In the sense, for physical classes, you would usually show up on time with your books and pens ready, right? So do the same here. If you have to get up in the middle of the class to grab a book or pen, you might miss something important in the class. So prepare your study space properly, and be seated at least 2 to 3 minutes before the class starts. It would help you settle down and focus too. About the distractions, now Avasha explained about the distractions in general. I'm going to be talking about the distractions in online classes particularly. So about the distractions in online classes, let's be honest, no one is totally free from them, including myself. One thing that helped me a lot was separating the devices, like one for studies and another one for social media. But I know like apps like YouTube, they can still be accessed from anywhere. If we have the internet connection, we can access apps like that from anywhere. So we need to find our own ways to control that. Um, for me, in my case, even WhatsApp was distracting. So I never stayed logged into WhatsApp on my laptop unless I really needed it. Telegram wasn't as distracting as WhatsApp, so I kept it on both devices. But YouTube, just like Avasha mentioned, I that was a big distraction for me. So she shared how I coped up with that. I used a Chrome extension called Focus Guard to block it. And I also kept my phone far away from me, like not even within my reach, unless I needed it to access PDFs or something like that. It was not even in my vicinity. Another big thing that helped me to keep myself away from distractions was staying active as much as possible during the class. I always made sure to give answers even when I wasn't fully confident with my answers. Um, Sometimes I got it wrong, to be honest, but that's okay. The point is, I had to be paying attention to even try answering, and that helped me stay focused and stay away from distractions. Don't be afraid to make mistakes because nobody really cares. Nobody cares if someone judges you or not. What matters in the end of the day is whether you are making the most of your classes or not. Also, another thing, try to try to actively engage in different ways. And I mean, not just answering the questions the sirs are asking, but you can also actively engage in different ways. Like you can highlight your books, you can write notes, you can draw diagrams, check your resource books, whatever that helps you stay involved and engaged. Because online classes, they can get boring and lonely very easily. So it's in your hands to create your own engagement. Now about the breaks, talking about the breaks during online classes, just like in physical classes, even in online classes, most of the sets, they give breaks. Take those breaks, take the breaks that you deserve during the online classes also. Don't be overly studious during that time. Like, don't be like, I'm wasting this time and I'm going to be studying even in this time, because that will not really help you, because your brain also needs some refreshment. So take that break which you deserve. But don't scroll through your phone either during the break time. Go for a walk, talk to someone in your house, eat something, and most importantly, set an alarm before the break ends. Like now, sir would be mentioning when the break is going to end, right? So before you leave to take your break, set an alarm set an alarm, and then you can come back on time, right? That's really important, because otherwise you can be missing out. And after class, revise what you learned in the online class, just like you would do after a physical class. Do your homework, go through the related questions, related past paper questions, model questions, and practice as much as you can. Don't just attend the class and forget about it and open the books when you need it for the next class. Treat them as physical class. Treat them like you would treat the physical classes. And yes, since online learning puts a lot of strain on your eyes, maybe you can invest in a pair of anti-blue ray glasses. I myself used it and it helped me, to be honest. They are affordable and really helpful to keep our eyes healthy. I think now I've covered everything I wanted to share about the online classes. I hope this helps you make the most of the online classes. Now let's hear what Nada has to say about sleep, something we all struggle with during our A-levels. Over to you, Nada.
Thank you, Zainab. Choosing between online and physical classes can be difficult. And even if we are following online classes, we should make sure we are productive. And I believe you have conveyed the message perfectly. So, before I move into my topic, I have to make something clear that we will be running this meeting for a little longer than you might have expected, because we want to address each and every issue that you might have sent through us, through the Google form to us. So, this my meeting might, lengthen. So if you can stay, it will be really great. So sleep schedule. Something that so many people have been messaging and asking me is about my sleep schedule, how I shifted it. Yes, I did shift it. I actually mentioned it in another guidance program. I have said that I was a night person before and throughout my O levels and also into my A levels. I used to study pretty late into the night, and when I started my A levels, I continued that habit. But once I entered my second year, people around me, they started saying that staying awake late into the night, it isn't healthy. And especially when studying bio, people used to say me that it is important to study early, then only your brain is more active and you can remember things easily. So listening to that, I decided to shift my sleeping pattern around 8 months before my A-level exam. To be honest, yes, I was able to change it. But I did have a support from my I had a support from my mom. To be honest, I have to like make things clear. I used to make her wake up with me around 3 a.m. so I wouldn't fall asleep. So once somebody is awake with me, once I am fully refreshed, it's okay if nobody is around me. So she would wake up, pray, and then I would pray too, and then I would continue studying, and then she would sleep again. So just that boost. So yes, I did. I managed to shift my sleep schedule, but it cost me a lot. Please listen to this. It was really depressing. I had been studying at night the whole time, and then I had to make the entire transition so quickly, not within a month, but within a week. I started to shift completely. I began sleeping early and waking up early, like around 3 or 4 a.m. And my friends here also supported me. They called me and make sure I was awake as well. So we helped each other wake up. Because I really wanted to change to a morning person. But again, it cost me a lot, as I said. The cost, that I felt was I lost an entire month of productivity. I couldn't study effectively during that month. One of the reasons was because of my sleep schedule, the shift in my sleep schedule. I couldn't focus during the daytime as well. Whatever I was studying during the daytime, it wasn't effective. For example, like during the class time, sir was explaining. Okay, sir was explaining me, but I felt like I had a sudden ADHD or something. He was speaking in English. I could understand. He was speaking in English. I could hear him speaking as well, but I couldn't just comprehend what he was saying. I was forcing myself to concentrate just like how an ADHD person would force himself or herself to concentrate. And that lack of focus was clearly a consequence of my sleep shift. Before that, even though I was a night person, I could still attend morning classes without any trouble. But after that shift only, it became a problem. I was constantly forcing myself to stay awake and understand the lessons. So during paper classes, especially during physics paper classes where you actually have to stay awake, right, to read the question, I would read the same physics question in a paper 5 or 6 times and still I zoned out. And I could understand that was because I shifted my sleep schedule drastically and I couldn't, like, it was messing up with my brain. I was also mentally down. It was very hard to manage. I lost an entire month trying to change my sleep schedule, and at this stage so close to A levels, a month is a huge loss. Losing a month is not easy. 1 or 2 weeks before the exam, you will realize how each second is going to count. You will regret every second you have wasted during your A level journey. And I truly regret losing that 1 month. I feel that if I had that time, I would have been in a much better position. So even though, like I said, I managed to change my sleep schedule, it was risky. It came at a high cost. And what I would suggest is, if you are close to your A levels, please don't do such a foolish thing. Okay, so there will be so much free consequences to face, like I did. So don't say I didn't warn you. Okay, so you are trying to change how your brain is actually functioning. Naturally, humans are adapted to sleep early and wake up early. That's how they are adapted. But I don't know, because of this COVID or something, most students, they started to sleep late and then waking up late, and that actually reprogrammed our brains and hormone cycles. And if you try to undo all that right in the middle of your A levels, especially towards the end, it's going to have a very big impact on how your brain is going to function. And that is what actually happened to me. You could see that with my own experience. Just because I wanted to be more effective during the daytime, because people around me apparently was telling me to change my sleep schedule, it didn't work. I actually lost my effectiveness for a month. So if you want to change your sleep schedule, I would say it is okay for people who are just beginning, or like who are like yeah, for 26 batch also it would be fine, because do it slowly. Okay, do it slowly. If you really want to change it, if you are in your first year, take 3 to 4 months. Don't try to change it like within 1 week like how I did. Take 3 to 4 months, shift it little by little, 15 minutes at a time, 15 minutes by 15 minutes, go to sleep early. And that way you can change it, but don't do drastically like how I did just because you have 6 months left. But for those who are in your last month, especially 25 batch and repeaters, please don't do this. I don't think it's a good idea. You will end up wasting your time and you will end up wasting your effectiveness. Another thing that people asked me was about waking up early. Like, since all the exams are in the morning, how do the night owls manage it? Can they sleep late and then wake up early for the exam, and can they write it effectively? Honestly, I can't speak for everyone, to be honest, but I do know some of my friends. Like later I shifted to a morning routine, so I can't really say it based on experience. But some of my friends that I know who are night owls, and they still wrote their morning papers very well. And I know they got 3 A's as well. So even if you are a night person, when you have an exam in the morning, you have this natural tendency to stay alert. So during my O levels, I told you I was a night person, but I could still perform well when it was exams in the morning. So I don't know how that exactly works, but I believe it's just human nature. So I don't think that would be a problem even for the night owls. So that's the thing about shifting your night schedule to morning. So think carefully before doing it. And even if you are in your early stage, like I told you, you can do that by taking an extended amount of time. Gradually, you can change. But if you're suddenly trying to change your schedule, just like I did, it's going to mess things up. So you'll face the consequences at least for a month, and your overall effectiveness is going to take a hit. So I had to like talk about this in detail, because so many people were asking me about this, because I mentioned that in one of my previous guidance programs. So That's what I would want to say about sleep schedule. And another thing I wanted to mention is most people ask me, what about the sleeping hours? Like some people say they sleep for 7 hours. They ask their seniors and they say, some people sleep for 7 hours, 6 hours. So how does that work? To be honest, it is subjective. So for me, the ideal time limit for sleeping was 6 hours. If I slept less than 6 hours, I couldn't concentrate during the daytime. And if I slept more than 6 hours, I felt sleepy during the daytime. So, that there's a balance between 6 hours. For Zainab, I believe it was around 5, and even Avasha, I think it was around 5. So it depends, okay? It depends from person to person. So you have to find that. You have to find your proper sleep length. So if you can do that, yeah, so don't lose your health. Okay, that's also very important. Some people sleep for 3 hours. So yeah, I also did that. I started to cut down sleep during my second year because people used to say then only you can get into a faculty or something. And then I started to cut down my sleep, and it actually backfired me. I lost my productiveness. So again, these all are based on experience. Experience speaks. So please, try to find out your ideal timing and try to implement that according to your body. Okay, so that's it about sleep schedule that I want to say. So a next very interesting topic that most people had mentioned was about private candidates versus school candidates. So what are the pros and cons of being a private candidate and school candidate? Is there any difference when writing the A-level paper, something like that? Okay, for that we have Avasha to address on that issue. So over to you, Avasha.
Thank you, Nanda. And what you said is perfectly correct. That is, change has to come slowly. It can't hit you like a truck, but rather slow steps means a perfection at the end of the day. I personally know a senior who slept for 8 hours, but she got into Peradeniya medical faculty as well. So it's completely subjective. Make sure you prioritize your health and your productivity before you throughout your A-level journey as well. When it comes to private candidacy or school candidacy, a lot of people had asked these questions in the Google document. What is better? When it comes when we are diving into something that one of the issues that school candidates and private candidates will face are the issues when it comes to term exams. So term exams, everyone has to face term exams at some point, whether it's your first term exams, your mock exams, or your finals. Exams are crucial in your academic journey. They are stressful, but when it comes to term exams, they're not just an academic requirement. They have an essential purpose as well. They are important, even though they're challenging. And what is the difference that school candidates and private candidates face when it comes to the term exams in specific, right? Term exams are important, right? They have structure, they provide you structure, they provide boundaries, they have a sense of direction. Like, for example, when it comes to your third term exams, you know that you're supposed to have covered the grade 12 resource book in total. When it comes to your first term exams, you know that you should have covered the first 3 units in chemistry up to chemical calculation. So there's a boundary. So when it comes to this term, I'm supposed to do up to this much in the syllabus. There's a proper boundary. So that prevents you getting overwhelmed at the end of the day, prevents you getting overwhelmed at the end of the day, prevents a lot of stress in the exam, prevents a lot of pressure on the exam as well. So these boundaries are crucial. They're essential. They help you stay more or less relatively calm, right? You're not calm, your A levels, but as calm as you possibly can be, right? So when it comes to term exam, they set boundaries on your study schedule, right? Like I mentioned, you can be overwhelmed by the sheer amount of content you have to cover. By breaking down your syllabus into smaller term-based goals, not like final as your entire goal, but rather term-based goals, you have this proper roadmap that guides your study efforts and minimizes your stress when exams draw near as well. And the more you write exams, the better you become at managing time. The more you write exams, the better your results get. The better your results get. So you become better at managing time, you become better at answering under pressure. As well, so when it comes to subjects like physics and chemistry, most students say like it's not just about writing the exam, it's about getting the idea into your head as well. It's about reading the question and understanding the question as well under pressure. And sometimes under pressure, we can get the wrong idea, we cannot even get an idea. So the more exams you write, the better these issues become solved. And they are terrifying. Exams are terrifying. I get it. At some point, especially during the A levels, compared to your O levels when you got 80s and 90s for subjects, A levels when you get like 40s and 50s, you get really demotivated really fast. But they are like I mentioned, at the end of the at the end of the day, when you get your A-level result, no one is going to ask you what your first term marks were, what your second term marks were. Everyone is going to ask you what your final results were. And as long as your final results are good, no one is going to care if you scored a 40 on your third term exams, if you scored a 30 on your first term exams, no one is going to care, right? Term exams are basically practice runs that prepare you for the bigger picture. So when it comes to the pros and cons of private candidacy or school candidacy, I would mention one of the points that I would mention as a pro when it comes to school candidacy is that they get to write frequent exams, right? But how can you overcome this issue if you're a private candidate? Is you go to paper classes. For example, I personally went to paper classes that that had exams every week. So every week they would give you a paper, and within the next week they would get that you get your paper marked, your ranks, and your scores as well. So when you have exposure to frequent papers, it's that struggle becomes less overwhelming at the end of the day, because school candidates also will face issues, right? They will also face challenges, time management challenges, for example, right? You have to go to school, you have to do your school homework, you have to travel back and forth, right? A lot of time management issues as well. So creating prioritizing your study sessions based on the upcoming exams can help, but ultimately there are some issues that you will face as a school candidate, like physical exhaustion and mental exhaustion as well, right? And private candidates also will face issues, lack of regular exam practice, like I mentioned, which can be overcome if you go to proper paper classes, if you go to proper revision classes as well. And there's also limited access to practicals, like if you go to a school and if you have all the necessary equipment for physics and chemistry and biology, you will be able to conduct practicals even by yourself. The teacher will either do them, or he will encourage you to do them, right? And if you are a private candidate, you won't get that much of an exposure to doing practicals yourself, but there's also an issue you can overcome by using resources like YouTube, for example, certain websites like DP Education, other apps to understand practicals. There are so many apps. There's a plethora of apps on the internet. There's a plethora of information on the internet. You can overcome this issue as well. And also there is a lack of structured support when it comes to private candidates. They don't have classmates. They don't have school teachers, right? So there's not that much structured support around a private candidate as well. Another issue that a private candidate can face is not being an environment where they write exams in a competitive environment. So if you go to school and write school exams, you are around your friends as an examiner, as a teacher, you are in a class, you have that competitive feeling, right? So a prior candidate may not have access to that sort of environment. Even though they might time papers and do them themselves, they won't get the environment which is crucial at the end of the day for your finals as well. So how when it comes to me recommending school candidacy, or when it comes to recommending private candidacy, I would say that is subjective. That is a decision that me as an outsider cannot weigh in on. It should be something that your parents and you decide, right? But the thing is, both of them have pros, both of them have cons. Ultimately, I would say the biggest issue that threatens you will be when it comes to term exams, right? School students will have access to term exams, and if used right, if they take maximum opportunity of that privilege, then their results can change for the better, right? Like really, really better as well. So ultimately, I would not weigh in more favorably on one or the other. That is a decision that you, as students and your parents, have to make on your own. So ask around, see what works for you, and make sure that for every con you face, there is an alternative, because there is an alternative for everything, right? So that's what I would talk about. That's what I would mention about private candidacy or school candidacy. So when it comes to resources, like I mentioned, DP Education, there are many resources. There's a plethora of resources on the internet, like I mentioned. So what resources should you be using? What resources should you be accessing? So where can you be accessing these resources? These are actual issues you face. So Zainab can touch upon those issues that when students face when it comes to choosing, when it comes to selecting resources as well.
Thank you, Avasha, for that. That was a precise comparison between the private candidates and the school candidates, what they go through, what they have to do and all. Now I'll be talking about how to use the right resources for your A-level preparation, subject by subject, because understanding what to study and where to get it from is half the battle, to be honest. Let's begin with something that's common across all three science subjects, biology, physics, chemistry. I don't think it's there for maths, combined maths, but these three subjects. The resource book, that's the resource book. So talking about the general use of the resource book, we know resource book is your guideline. It's what the examiners use. It's where the syllabus is from. And most importantly, especially for biology, there won't be even a single question outside this resource book. So naturally, a lot of students ask, should I follow other tutors' notes? And the truth is you don't have to. As long as you're sticking to the resource book and deeply understanding it, you are fine, you are good. And for physics and chemistry, the story is slightly different, and I'll explain that now, subject by subject. Talking about biology, as I said, the resource book is your blueprint for biology. Everything you need is in there, especially, everything you need is in there, in the resource books itself. You don't need to look at the things like Campbell Biology or extra books because honestly, the biology syllabus itself is so vast. You have to study 4 resource books, I guess. You won't even have the time to explore beyond the resource books. If you do, then you must be superhuman. I don't know. Now, when it comes to papers, this is where the external resources matter. You have to do model papers outside of just the past papers because the current A-level system has only around 5 years of past papers from 2019 to 2024. And under the new syllabus, no, it's 6 years, sorry, 6 years of past papers under the new syllabus. So where do you get them? Where do you get these model papers from? I would recommend FWC papers. These are very, very standard and they are great for time management. Moratua papers, other than FWC papers, you can try Moratua papers, Devbalika papers, Vishaka papers, the provincial papers like Western, Northern Province, Central Province papers, and other school papers. You know, you have a bunch of papers you can try other than the past papers. But one key tip, make sure the paper has a marking scheme before you try. Look for the marking scheme because a good paper is nothing without a good scheme, to be honest. So always double check that first before you try the paper. Next, let's move on to chemistry. Talking about chemistry, in chemistry, the resource book works well for theory lessons like gases, environmental chemistry, industrial chemistry, inorganic chemistry also, and for those lessons, for those chemistries. But for calculation-based lessons like chemical calculations, physical chemistry parts, and the practical lessons, it's not enough, to be honest, because the examples in the resource book, they aren't sufficient. So you do need extra practice questions for those areas. Just like in physics, doing 20 years of past papers or even 10 years of past papers and analyzing them deeply can be helpful in chemistry. But if you want to master time management, you should also do model papers with timed practice. Timing is crucial in chemistry, especially part 2. Talking about physics, let's move on to physics now. Physics is a subject where the resource book is not sufficient on its own. I guess everybody knows that. But what's super important here is the practical handbook. There are entire 4 practical-based questions in part 2 paper, right? So take the practical handbook very seriously. One great tool to help you prepare for the practicals is the DP Education YouTube channel. They explain all the physics practicals in all 3 languages, English, Sinhala, and Tamil. So it's accessible to everyone. Talking about now let's talk about how you can get these resources. We talked about what the resources are. Now let's talk about how you can get these resources. We live in the internet era, so let's use the internet in a beneficial way rather than misusing it. The reliable online sources that I would recommend are you can use Science Eagle website. And there's Beyond website. They have FWC papers. We'll put the links later in our WhatsApp groups. They have FWC papers. They have marking schemes and even detailed discussion groups. So they are good for the FWC papers. And other than that, we can use Telegram groups. There are multiple A-level subject groups sharing resources, discussions, and paper links. In fact, the hosts of this session are admins of a Telegram group that we'll be sharing the link with you all right now. Next, we also have WhatsApp groups, reliable WhatsApp groups. There are many dedicated groups for each subject where papers and marking schemes are regularly shared. Next, we also have YouTube channels like DP Education and individual subject channels, which you yourself can find for. They also provide full paper walkthroughs and theory sessions, very clear discussions. You can watch it for yourself. So be smart. Don't waste time scrolling aimlessly on your phone. Make your phone or laptop your study buddy. To sum it up, for biology, stick to the resource book and do extra model papers like FWC. For chemistry, I would say resource book is great for theory, but you'll need extra practice for calculation-based lessons. Moving on to physics, prioritize your practical handbook and use platforms like I mentioned, DP Education and the other platforms. And for all the subjects, all three subjects, you can use online platforms wisely. You can join the related groups, download schemes, do timed practice, and train your brain to face the finals with confidence. Remember, these exams are just another version of the papers you've already been practicing, so don't panic. Make your preparation right. And now, hold on. Yes, we have our Telegram group linked, dropped in the Zoom chat. If you have any questions, you can drop them in the group. Thank you and best of luck. I guess Nada is now waiting to talk about time management in A-levels, which is a very vital topic. Over to you, Nada.
Thank you, Zainab. Resources in A-levels is something that most people are concerned about and often confused about as well. And I believe you provided them with the utmost clarity regarding the subject. So when it comes to time management, the way I was managing my time was basically by using the Pomodoro technique. I know these techniques and all, most people think they're superficial. They're hard to follow, not really practical. Even I used to think that way. There are so many study techniques like Feynman's technique, Pomodoro technique, this technique, that technique, and I felt it wasn't for me because I didn't like to restrict myself to something that somebody has already pre-made. So that it didn't seem humanly possible to follow them. But then in my second year, like most of you all mentioned in the Google form, I was dealing with daydreaming. I used to lose my attention and focus, and I could feel myself doing that. And then all my precious time was getting wasted. So, in order to avoid that, what I did was I downloaded an app called Focus To Do. I have mentioned about this to some people. So, where you have these timers where you can study and focus for like 25 to 30 minutes, you can set the timer to whatever limit you want, and then you can take a break. The break length can also be adjusted. Now, I know people might have heard of this technique, Pomodoro, but thing is, when you have an app in order to do that, I think it would be more convenient. So even when the timer was running, like this was very useful because at the end of the day, this app, all the hours that you have focused and you have studied, it will be calculated and it will be displayed as total study hours at the end of the day. So whom are you fooling at the end? It's yourself. You can't be daydreaming and then convince yourself that you have studied a lot, right? I had that in my mind. I can't lie to myself. So I was doing my level best. I was making sure that I was focusing. Even when the timer was running, I kept reminding myself that since the timer is running, I should focus and not daydream because I can't lie to myself. At the beginning, it was really, really hard because it's going to take you to a mentality and it's going to train you, right? So everything at the beginning is going to be hard. I know that. So eventually, you're going to get used to it. The best part was that everything was calculated at the end, and I loved that. You have also these short breaks in the middle, right? So during those short breaks, what I did was I allowed myself to do anything I wanted, like getting distracted. Oh, I had this habit of talking to people around. Like I used to go around the house and I used to talk. So I used to do whatever I want. The things that actually distracted me while I was studying, I did them during the breaks. So, and during the study time, I used to focus my level best. Another thing about that app is that you can create groups where you can add friends. Okay, so all three of us here we did that, and all of you can see how many hours a particular person has studied. Okay, so your friends' study hours will also be calculated and displayed to you. That's another motivating factor because when somebody is focusing on studying at the moment, that's visible to others also, right? So that's an additional motivation. Also, many people ask me whether we have to study all three subjects per day or like only one subject. It's like not necessarily. You don't have to study all three subjects per day. You can just study two subjects per day. That's the most ideal one, I believe. And to be honest, there were days when I studied just one subject. Some people feel they have to focus on a certain subject on a particular day. So, and when they do that, they feel guilty. But now, see, I can't give you a version of me as an ideal person, right? I can't lie to you guys like this is how I ideally followed. But no, I was a normal person, and there were times there that I had to focus on a certain specific lesson. For example, in chemistry, you have to give your maximum effort to that subject for the day. Let's say, giving that time is not something you to feel guilty about. To be honest, I did that because only then I was able to improve because I had to give the time, I had to manage the time and give it what it needed. So there might be days where you'll have to focus on one subject. Please don't feel guilty about it. Ideally, studying 2 hours per day is a good balance. And if there are days where you focus on just one subject, try to balance it out on another day by giving more time to the others. Now, about timetables, this is another thing that most people have been asking me. Some people have been following timetable based studying since they are lower grades. For them, coming into A levels and setting timetables, it won't be overwhelming. But for most of us, normal people like me, that's not the case. We haven't followed strict timetables before during our O level times and all. And suddenly during A levels, we are told that we have to make rigid timetables and schedules or else we can't succeed. It's all a myth. The truth is, everyone's study method is subjective. Okay. You can't say that just because someone studies in a certain way, they will definitely succeed. No, there is no hard and fast rule like that. What I used instead of a timetable was a method called tasking. So tasking means you write down the tasks that you need to do the next day, the night before. The problem with the fixed timetable is that, for example, if you write your timetable starting at 6 a.m., okay, with biology paper or something, you are forcing yourself to wake up and do it at that exact time, even if you are not in the mood for it. And if you skip it, you might feel like, oh my God, I have messed up my entire schedule. I can't follow this timetable for today. So let me restart tomorrow. So this cycle is going to continue. So that lack of flexibility when you want to do something, when you have the mood for doing it, can reduce motivation for the rest of the day. I have personally experienced this so many times because I have tried the method of timetable and it didn't work for me. That's why I had this alternative. But with tasking, you list everything the previous night and you do each task based on your convenience and the mood the next day. You can't always predict how you're going to feel tomorrow, right? You can't always predict your mood. Sometime you might feel like, okay, I have done physics so well today. So tomorrow morning also, the first thing I'm going to do is wake up and do physics. But the first thing what you would want to do when you wake up would be chemistry sometimes. So don't be hard on yourself. Yes, discipline and consistency are important, but finding a right method that's flexible and keeps you mentally stable is more important. So if you feel like studying chemistry in the morning, do that, and maybe study physics later. In the same day, do it on another time. The total time taken will be the same whether you are going to use timetable or tasking. Because now, if you have like bio paper for 1 hour, even if you put it in timetable, it's going to take 1 hour. Even if you're going to put it in tasking, it's going to take 1 hour. So that's not a problem. The difference is there in the flexibility. You just do it when you feel like you want to do it. So now this doesn't mean you just study when you feel like and waste the rest of the time. That's not what I mean. It just means you adapt your schedule to what you are ready for at that moment. And that can make your study time more productive. You can't always predict what your mind is ready to focus on. So working with that will help you make your efforts more effective and meaningful at the end of the day. So that's what I can share about time management for now. And yeah, so next we are going to have a talk about concentration. So productivity, concentration. Most people are dealing with this issue. I know, like the few months, you guys have few months now, and you even though you want to concentrate, some people might have problems with concentration. So we have Avasha here again, once again, to explain us about how you can concentrate effectively. Over to you.
Thank you, Another. Right. So about the timetable thing, a lot of people have told me make timetables as the only way you can succeed. But I don't think I've ever made a single timetable my entire life. No, didn't work for me during my O levels, didn't work for me during my A levels as well. So like Nada said, it's completely subjective. Do not change your study routine which works for you just because somebody else has a different opinion as well. If it works for you, continue that as well. So when it comes to concentration, like I know many of you are facing a challenge that's been bothering a lot of you, especially now because exams are just 6 months away. That is concentration, right? Like it just seems so out of reach no matter how hard you try, right? And another issue you'll be facing right now because the pressure and the stress is overwhelming is that you find it difficult to focus for long periods. And the motivation and enthusiasm for learning is like just completely gone, it's completely slipped away as well. So let's talk about why this is happening, why we can't concentrate, and what we can do about it. Number one is figuring out why is it hard for us to concentrate, right? You might be somebody like me who's born with a mind that finds it difficult to focus, right? So if it's something natural, one of the ways I overcame that issue was I used to listen to something when I was studying. Like there were certain periods where I could focus, certain times of the day I could focus. And during those times, I studied theory, like biology or like chemistry theory, studied something new, something that I haven't learned before. So it was all input. And the times where my mind refused to focus, I basically did something that was considered as output. I did questions, I practiced papers basically, right? So when I was doing these questions to make sure that I was focusing, I used to listen to something. So you might have heard of white noise, which are basically like sounds, not music. Don't listen to music because the lyrics will not make you help you focus, and music is just going to distract you in the long run, right? So not music, but white noise can help me focus. It might help you as well. You guys can try it out, test run sort of. And it helped me work. So when I was doing the questions, the part of my brain that was erratic, that was, that refused to stand still, that refused to calm down, that would be focused on the noise, on the white noise, and the part of my brain that could focus was focused on the paper. So it works for output sort of scenarios, not the input. So when you're reading theory, make sure that your focus is only on the theory. When you're learning something new for the first time, make sure your focus is entirely on that as well. But some of you might have might face different issues when it comes to reasons as to why hard it is to concentrate, right? Number one might be the lack of enthusiasm for the subject, right? So if you've lost enthusiasm for the subject and the subject doesn't excite you anymore, the idea of studying can seem draining, right? Because your brain will be less likely to engage, to focus on the material as well. Right? You can be overwhelmed. Like right now, one of the main reasons you can't focus is probably because of stress, because the pressure of the upcoming exam is overwhelming. 6 months is, in the whole scope of things, it doesn't seem like a long time. It is a long time, right? You guys can change three F's into three A's if you work hard with focus, with precision, with dedication. But to our minds, at this point in time, it doesn't seem like a long time, right? And this is like mentally exhausting as well, making it hard for you to focus. Another reason you might not be able to focus is distraction. So my chemistry teacher told me, do not even think about watching YouTube shows. Do not even think about watching TikTok reels. If you want to watch something, watch a YouTube video. Watch a movie, right? Don't watch shorts because shorts are what, 56 minutes, 50 to 60, not minutes, sorry, seconds, right? So they're like very small. So your concentration ability goes down. It dwindles the more you watch these very short videos. They're engaging. That's the marketing strategy behind it. They're engaging. But when it comes to helping your concentration levels, they are horrible. They're not going to help you concentrate. Also, if you want to watch something, if you're like taking a well-deserved break, or if you can't study, you're just bored, you want to watch something, I don't recommend you not taking non-deserved breaks, but you don't want to study and you want a break, watch a movie instead of watching these shorts or these reels. But don't watch these very, very short videos. Instead, watch something longer, watch something like a movie or like a longer YouTube video, because distractions like reels is gonna ruin you in the long run. Some of you might feel distracted because you don't have a proper routine. I'm not talking about a timetable, but I'm talking about an overall plan for the day, right? So today I'm going to cover, for example, I'm going to do past papers, and I'm going to look at this section of the theory. It's not about having this rigid timetable where exactly from 1 to 2 I'm going to do past papers, exactly from 2.5 to 3.5 I'm going to do model papers. It's not this rigid timetable, but I'm talking about a vision for the day, a plan for the day. If you don't have a plan for the day, chances are your day is not going to be efficient. I'm not talking about timetable. I'm talking about an overall idea, an overall plan. That is something you must have if you want your day to be productive, right? So basically, you're losing concentration, many other issues as well. If you guys find it very difficult to focus, like you've tried every single remedy, none of it works, it's always best to go to a doctor because it can be due to ADHD issues or ADD issues as well. And they can, if it's extremely serious, they can prescribe medication for you in some cases as well. I know people who have had medication prescribed for them because it was genuinely overwhelming for them to concentrate. They couldn't concentrate at all, right? So how do you overcome these challenges? How do you improve focus? Number one is, like I always say, remember why. Remember why you started, right? It's hard now when you just have 6 months till the exam. You don't want to think about why, but remembering why will motivate you at least even a little bit, right? Why are you doing this? What are your goals? If you lose sight of your ambition, that's when motivation start to slip. So reconnect basically with why you started. Think about what all of this hard work is leading towards, right? So some of the people I know, they had this sort of diary where they wrote down their goals and kept them somewhere visible when they study, where they studied. It can help as well. So whenever we find your mind drifting, glance at your goals, whether it's to, pursue a certain career, pursue your dreams, to make your family proud, because, remember why, right? So when setting goals, there's this one thing that I was taught: when you're setting goals, make sure that they are smart. And by smart, I mean they make sure they are specific, right? Specific to the subject. You're not going to go looking for extra additional information. You're not going to go looking for anything outside the boundary of what you will be questioned for in your exams. I know extra resources are a good thing. Extra information is a good thing, but especially for 2025 students right now, they will be like, it's hard enough to study what is in the resource book, let alone extra resources. So make sure that whatever you are studying is within the exam scope, right? Make sure they're measurable. Don't set unrealistic expectations for yourself, right? So sometimes some people might make timetables. You're waking up at 4. Right? From 4 to 5, you're doing chemistry. From 5 to 6:05, you're doing physics. From 6:15 to 7:15, you're doing biology. From 7:30 to 8:30, you're doing chemistry. It's like that's not going to work. If it works, I don't think you're human, right? So make sure they're realistic, make sure they're measurable, make sure they're achievable as well, and make sure they're relevant as well. Make sure that if you focus on your weak section. Sometimes I know that the sections that you find easy, it's comforting to do them, right? You try past papers that are easy, past paper questions that are easy. It's comforting, like you're not going to feel demotivated. But and in the examiner isn't going to give you a special paper based on only the easy questions that you find, right? The one based on the questions that you find easy alone. That's going to be a mixture of questions: easy, hard, difficult, average, right? So make sure that by relevant means, make sure that you don't focus on what you want to do only, but rather on what you need to do as well. And make sure they're time bound as well. When it comes to papers and stuff, make sure there's a time limit. And breaking down your long-term goals into smaller, into achievable tasks can give you a clear roadmap on how to stay on track. That is why I recommend you doing term tests. That's why I recommend you doing other papers as well, because they will give you reachable small-term goals. You're not going to suddenly be thrust into the A-level final exam, but rather, okay, for this term, I'm going to get this, I'm going to study this and I'm going to get this amount of marks. For the next term, I'm going to study this and get this amount of marks. So smaller achievable tasks are going to help you stay on track as well, right? And then, like I mentioned before as well, to eliminate distractions, external internal interruptions and distractions as well. Sometimes some of you will face distractions that are beyond your scope, that are beyond your level of control, right? So, but the ones that you have within your control, like for example, social media, family functions, whatever it is, these things that you can control, minimize them. Or rather, instead of just minimizing them, some things you can completely eliminate as well, right? You can also study with your friends. That will help you concentrate better. Like Nadwa mentioned, there are certain apps which you can study with your friends, or you can make study groups. But the point is, make sure that your friends and you you're in the same wavelength, you're in the same frequency. Like if you're going to get together and gossip and talk, then there's no point in you getting together. Make sure they're studious. Make sure, I'm not talking about that. I'm not saying that they have to be, they have to get 80 to 90s for their exam. They have to be like academically intelligent in any to a really good degree or anything like that. I'm talking about studiousness, the desire to learn, the desire to improve. Make sure your friend group is studious in that way. Um, and another way in which you can prevent getting distracted, improve your concentration better, is by using active learning techniques. If you're somebody, and there are people who think studying is just reading the resource book over and over again, they read the resource book, that's it. They don't like, their way of studying is completely passive. It's not active at all. So if you want to eliminate distractions, you can maybe explain something to somebody. It doesn't have to be somebody, can be an imaginary person in front of you as well. Or you can do payables, which is something that I found very engaging for my brain. So I couldn't sit, like after COVID especially, I couldn't sit still and focus. I was so distracted, right? I couldn't even sit still and focus for 15 minutes. My brain would go in 15 different directions. I would daydream 15 different scenarios as well, right? Even Nada, she daydreamed so much. So one of the ways we overcame that issue was we did papers. So I chose my classes specifically catered towards question-based learning as well. So passive learning never helps anyone. Make sure it's active. Your learning is active as well if you have a distracted mind as well. Another thing that I did was I changed up my study methods. This might not work for everybody, but you can have a trial run, basically try see if it works if you're like really distracted. But I don't recommend this at all to everybody, right? So changing your study method is, some people, they find routine easier. They find routines more comfortable. I found routines confining. They were stressful for me. So what I did was I changed my study methods every now and then, right? So whether it's watching YouTube videos every now and then, whether it was doing questions every now and then, I didn't stick to one specific approach, right? I didn't stick to one specific approach. Whatever I was in the mood for, I would study that subject. I would study it in a variety of different ways as well. YouTube videos, past paper questions, reading, explaining to somebody like my sisters, or just teaching to an imaginary person using the whiteboard. Make sure that your studying is active, however. And you can use apps like, there's so many study apps that help you at the end of the day as well. In conclusion, basically, stay committed, stay focused, right? The inability to concentrate is a common problem. You're not alone in this, right? But the key is to understand why it's happening. Is it due to stress, distractions, lack of enthusiasm, or is it something that you're born naturally, innate, is something innate within you? And take proactive steps to tackle it, right? So remember your goals, set a clear routine, eliminate your distractions, study with your friends, use active learning techniques, and also reward yourself for your hard work, like I mentioned before as well. Rewarding yourself will help you be concentrated in the keep you concentrated in the overall run as well. Remember that the effort you put in now is an investment to your future, right? Stay focused and take it one step at a time. Don't overwhelm yourself, but rather take it one step at a time, right? So, Nada, like I mentioned, you have many distractions, and one of those distractions will include family distractions, right? So how do you overcome this issue? Like, you have so many weddings, you have so many family functions, and people call you to every single one of them. How do you overcome this issue?
Thank you, Avasha, for that wonderful insight about distractions, their varieties, and how to overcome them. So, guys, listen up. This is something I really need you guys to think about. I know it's tough when there are weddings, family functions, trips, and all sorts of distractions around you. Everyone's going out, enjoying themselves, having fun, and it feels like you are stuck with your books, right? I totally get it. But here's the thing, this won't last forever. Right now, I need you to think about what you are working for. These few months, these few days where you're holding back from all the distractions. It's so that when the time comes, you can enjoy all of these things without the stress hanging over your head. I'm not saying don't enjoy life. Of course, you will. But right now, your focus has to be different. You have to prioritize what matters. And that means saying no sometimes, even when it's hard. That wedding or trip will come and go, but this time you are investing in yourself, that stays with you. When you have done your best and when you have worked for your goals, the enjoyment later is going to be so much better. It's going to be a million times better. You will look back and know it was worth it. So stay focused for these few months. It's a short sacrifice, but the rewards are going to be long term. Don't let these short term distractions mess with your long term goals. You've got this. And in the end, when you look back at all of it, you will realize that the success you have achieved is worth so much more than those few days you had held back. And trust me, it is going to feel so much better. You know what is success? Let me tell you what is success, to be honest. Going to these weddings, these trips, and whatever you have missed, being a successful person, knowing that you have achieved, and that makes all the difference. And I can truly relate it to right now. So that's what I have got to say about distractions, family distractions. So please think about it and know what to prioritize. So next we have a very important topic that most people find this really challenging and difficult, but they don't really get the right guidance. And I believe Zainab here would be able to help you out on how to deal with recordings piling up, and is it worth watching the recordings. So here, let's hear it out from an experienced person, Zainab, who has actually watched recordings for most of her chemistry lessons and has followed recordings for the subject as well. So, Zainab, over to you.
Thank you very much, Nada, for that. And yes, you're right. I am someone who watched recordings for most of my chemistry lessons and for the other subjects too. So now let's quickly talk about the recordings from online classes. They pile up. Yes, that's an issue. You know how it goes. For those who've been experienced, you know how it goes. You miss one class, then another, and you have 30 plus recordings. Just sitting there making you feel guilty every time you open your laptop. And that's a huge headache. I've been there, to be honest. But here's the truth. It's okay. You're not alone. Almost every level student has been there. Everyone who has experienced this, they have recordings piling up. The key is not to get overwhelmed by the number of the recordings you have. Instead, I'm going to give you a three-step approach which you can follow, and I believe that will help you to finish the recordings that you have in the pile. First step is you have to prioritize smartly. Don't try to finish everything. You can't finish all the recordings at once. Be selective in your recording. Focus on the lessons that are your weakest points, or the ones that you have complicated theory, like chemical calculations in chemistry or physics practicals, for example. You don't need to watch every single recording in full. Sometimes just watching 10 to 15 minutes of the explanation in the recording for a tough concept can be enough sometimes. And then the second step would be to create a catch-up plan. You can treat the recordings like a subject, in the sense you must dedicate, I mean, if you have recordings piled up, you must dedicate 30 minutes to 1 hour a day just for recordings. If you can dedicate more, then that would be fine. It's up to you to decide. It's subjective. So dedicate whatever the amount of time of your day just for the recordings. If you are using a day planner, write it in it. So for example, you can say from 7 to 8 p.m. you have to watch one bio recording. And remember, we all must be all of you must be knowing this. There's an option to change the speed, right? We can watch in 1x, 1.25x, 1.5x. So you can increase the speed also. So speaking of speed, that brings me to the next point. That is to use the speed and notes. Watch the recording at 1.25x or 1.5x speed to save time, and always make sure you jot down quick notes, and you should be jotting down quick notes. This will help you stay focused and not zone out halfway, because recordings, you don't have a tutor to guide you there. So you should make sure that you don't zone out. You are fully focused in the class. You are fully focused during the session. That must be completely in your control. So if, for example, if a recording is over, let's say 2 hours, and you feel like crying just looking at it, here's a trick I want to share. Watch only the part that covers the topic you missed. You can even scroll through the video like to skip the revision or Q&A sessions only if you feel like you have enough practice and you don't really need that revision. Only then you can do that. But if you are someone who feels like you need that revision and you feel like you don't have enough practice, then you wouldn't be able to do that. You have to watch the revision and the Q&A sessions. Finally, remember, recordings are there to help you catch up and not to stress you out. So take it step by step. Don't feel overwhelmed. Do what you can and stop feeling guilty about the rest. Everything will come your way, inshallah. And yes, that's what I have to say about the recordings. Next, we have Avasha to talk about that how to balance the three subjects in A levels. That's a very vital topic that everyone who's in the A level journey must need to hear. Over to you, Avasha.
Thank you, Zainab. I remember going through a phase where I didn't even want to get out of bed because I had so many recordings piled up. And honestly, like Zainab said, yeah, prioritize what you need to study. Prioritizing helps you reduce that stress as well. So, um, balancing three subjects. How do you balance three subjects? These are like one of the common challenges that the students are facing right now. That is balancing. If you're doing biology, if you're doing biological science, you have to balance you have to balance biology, chemistry, physics. If you're doing physical science, you have to balance mathematics, physics, and chemistry, which are extremely demanding subjects on their own, and when they're combined, it seems impossible at times, right? But first off, let's acknowledge that it is possible to succeed on three subjects, right? It has been done before. There are people who succeeded in all three subjects, and that's because they balanced all of these subjects as well. But you need strategies, you need proper time management, and you need, most importantly, consistency, right? And the key is to balance the subjects effectively without overloading yourself or letting one subject slip through the cracks, right? But before we move on to the issue students will face, let's also acknowledge the fact that not every subject is going to be difficult for you. There's going to be a subject that you find the hardest. There's going to be a subject that you find the easiest as well. So it's not about giving an equal amount of time study these subjects, because you will spend less time for the easier subjects and more time on the more difficult subjects. But it's about giving equal priority, equal importance, because ultimately the results are for three separate subjects as well, right? So when you study three subjects, you get really drained. You get physically exhausted, you get mentally exhausted. And when you switch between subjects, like for example, if you switch between biology and physics, they'd have different types of focus. They demand different type of focus, and that's exhausting as well, because biology is more theoretical, physics is more calculation. To switch continuously between these two subjects is exhausting, right? And you might start, but you might feel like you're not making progress in the subject because you're just jumping back and forth, and it's not productive in the long run. And there's also time constraints. Like if you have 6 months, you have syllabus to cover, you have past paper questions to do, you have other model paper questions to do as well. You have to go to classes, you have to go to school. So much time constraint as well. So how do you balance these three subjects? And you're tired as well. You're extremely tired. You're stressed. What are you going to do, right? And there's also difficulty in prioritizing. Like some days you will study, for example, biology and chemistry better, but you might feel like you didn't study physics at all. The next day you're going to study physics, but you might feel like you didn't touch up on biology and chemistry at all. And if you do biology, you have to like revise continuously as well. So there's so much difficulty in prioritizing these subjects as well. Makes you lose motivation, makes you lose focus as well. So I know that there are students who can study three subjects per day, and they have gotten 3 A's, and they've gotten a really good 3 A's as well. There are students who can study 3 A's as well, but generally speaking, that is difficult, right? Like Naga said, if you limit your study routines to 2 subjects per day, that is going to be less of a burden in your mind. And even if it's not 2 subjects a day, sometimes you don't even want to study, like you don't want to study 2 subjects a day. Sometimes you might just want to study 1 subject, but that's also fine, right? As long as it's productive, as long as it's efficient. But 2 subjects a day, I think, is a proper balance, because if you study 1 subject a day, you'll only get in touch with that subject 2 days after that, right? So if you study 2 subjects a day, it like reduces the burden on your brain and gives you proper focus to each subject. Because at the end of the day, it's not that I studied chemistry, biology, and physics today. It's about, did you understand the concept? Did you do it properly? Did you study it properly? Can you try pass the questions now? Can you answer the questions now? Can you get the questions right? Right. So when you rotate between the subjects and you give uh, two of them the proper attention, the proper balance, the proper time, ultimately, I think that would be the best possible outcome. But if you can balance three, go for it. And if you find extremely difficult, you can study one subject a day, but I don't really recommend that. But if you have no, if you're, it's either that or not studying at all, then at least study one subject per day. And also remember, while you're balancing 3 subjects, you have to make sure that you touch upon all these 3 subjects. You can't completely lose focus. So there was a time, like whenever, for example, I had a chemistry exam at my classes or a physics exam at my classes, one of the mistakes that I would do was I would completely give up on studying the other 2 subjects. I just study, if it's a physics exam, I'll just study physics. If it's a chemistry exam, I'll just study chemistry. I won't even touch the other 2 subjects for that entire week. That is such a bad idea. Even if it's a little, make sure I constant touch with the subjects. When there's an exam, you will prioritize that subject more. That's completely rational. But do not lose touch. Make sure you do every now and then at least try questions, at least skim through the theory, at least that, right? And use spaced repetition, use active recall. There are some techniques that you can try and check if it works for you as well. And one of the other pieces of advice that I have gotten, which personally didn't work for me, but it might work for other students, is to integrate subjects when possible. So when you're studying certain sections in biology, when it comes to Unit 5, there are certain logical sections where you can incorporate a bit of physics as well, and therefore you can like remind yourself of physics as well. It didn't work for me. You can try integrating subjects whenever possible, and if it works for you, then you can go for it as well. And also remember, prioritize based on your strengths and weaknesses. It's easy to study the easier subject, right? But you're not going to just get the easy subject at the end of the exam. It is hard, it is tough, it requires so much motivation, it requires so much willpower. But prioritize your weaknesses over your strengths. But that doesn't mean you're going to lose complete touch with your strengths. If you're good at biology, you're not good in physics, focus more on physics, but don't lose complete touch with biology as well, or else biology will turn into another weakness as well, right? And you can also use the reward system, like I mentioned, worked for me. Like for every small win, reward yourself. That gives you consistency. That gives you proper focus at the end of the day. So it's not impossible balancing these 3 subjects. It requires discipline, it requires consistency, but it's not impossible at all, right? Also, when you're talking on the subject of subjects, there are certain expected questions in all these 3 subjects in exams, right? So Zainab, can you touch upon that? The expected questions in exams?
Thank you, Avasha, for that. That was a very elaborative talk on how to balance the 3 subjects. Coming to the next issue, it's about expecting questions in exams. On the surface, it may feel like a smart strategy. We focus more on likely questions and we memorize the model answers. But I want to talk about the real risks that come with this approach. And I speak from my experience. My friends know this. In our year, the 2024 A-level paper, biology paper especially, we were told, or rather we assumed, that biology part 2 would give us 4 essays from the first 5 units. It was a common belief passed around by students, tutors, and even some teachers. And for a while, that comforted us. We studied those 5 units intensely. We prepared for those 5. We prepared really well to face any essays in those 5 units, thinking we were on the safe ground. But here's the truth: no one had ever promised us that this would be the questions in our exam paper. Not the government, not the examiners, not even the department responsible for the paper. It was never official, and yet we treated it as such. And that's honestly foolishness of us. So on exam day, when we opened that biology paper and saw questions from Unit 7, DNA replication, our confidence crumbled. I still remember that very moment. I don't know how to explain that. It was very stressing. It was very scary moment. Some of us stared blankly at the page, paralyzed by shock, and that one unexpected question didn't just affect biology, it set the tone for the entire exam period. Many students lost their motivations completely, carrying that disappointment into chemistry and also into physics. It wasn't just a bad exam, it became a bad experience, I would say. And now, why does this happen? When you expect questions, you narrow your focus. Instead of preparing broadly, you prepare selectively. It's easier, right? When you have the options, when you have the questions, when you already know the questions that you're going to get in the exams, it's easy. The preparation becomes very easy. You build your hopes on a foundation of assumptions, and assumptions, as we all know, are dangerous. Because when the paper doesn't meet those expectations, you feel betrayed, like we did in the 2024 people know, even if no one made a promise in the first place. It affects your mindset. You might start to think, I wasted my time, or this isn't fair, and that bitterness can cloud your performance in the rest of the paper, or even the rest of the subject. Another danger is that when you train your brain to expect rather than understand, your depth of knowledge suffers. You memorize instead of mastering the concept. You predict instead of preparing, and that's not right at all. Exams are not just a test of memory. They're a test of adaptability, comprehension, and clarity under pressure. Here's what we should be doing instead. Instead of relying on the assumptions, the expectations, prepare everything. Build strong foundations in all the topics, not just the popular ones, not just the essays from the first 5 units. In biology, I'm talking about biology. Study not for what you hope will come, but what might come, anything and everything. That's what true preparation looks like. Yes, it's harder. I didn't say it's not hard. It takes more time and effort. But when you walk into that exam hall, you will walk in ready. You will be ready for any question, not just for your favorite one. To everyone here who has joined with us today, don't fall for the comfort of assumptions. Instead, respect the unpredictability of the exams and prepare in a way that gives you confidence, no matter what the paper holds. I hope this gave you how important it is not to rely on the expected questions. Um, Next, we have Nada up to talk about the question patterns we can notice in the papers. That knowing the question patterns in each subject can help you boost your confidence in the exam paper. Over to you, Nada.
Thank you, Zainab, for that wonderful insight on expected questions in exams. So, yes, it was a horrible experience, to be honest. I think most of the 24 people can relate with that. So, anyway, I hope you got good advice from that. And with that, let's move on to the question patterns. So, if you look closely, you can find them in all three subjects. Let me start with physics, okay? So, in physics, I've given this advice to a lot of people. Just take three past papers, any three past papers from the new syllabus. Let's say 2020, 21, and 22. And then go through all the 50 MCQs in each of these papers and write down the exact topic each question comes from. For example, if there is a question from thermometry, don't just write heat. Write the specific topic, thermometry. Do the same for other topics like viscosity, surface tension, gravitational potential, like that, mention for each and every question and be as specific as possible. So once you have completed for all three papers, if you compare them, you will start to notice that there are certain topics that is going to appear consistently every year. So, for example, there will always be a question from conductivity, always one from elasticity, and so on. There will be some question patterns which you will be able to observe, and you will find out that around 25 to 30 of these questions tend to come from the same topics every year. Not only in the A-level paper, but also you can find this pattern in the models as well. So, why don't you just practice and perfect those areas? So, if you are unsure about the rest, it's okay. At least you have stabilized half of the paper, right? So after that, you can work on improving the rest of your weak areas by practicing questions accordingly. So find the easiest and smartest way to improve your marks. For example, like if you want to perfect in thermometry, take and do all the past paper questions from 1980s onwards, do all the questions, read the reviews and write your own reviews. That's how you can master a particular topic. So I personally struggled a lot with humidity. Okay, so even Zainab knows this. Close to the exam, I still found it tough. But I also noticed that in every past paper, every model paper, there was at least one question from humidity. There's a compulsory MCQ from humidity. So I didn't want to give up on that just because it was one. It could make a huge difference. So I didn't want to give my marks up. So just because I couldn't comprehend it. So a month before the exam, okay, a month before the exam, I took all the possible questions from humidity from 1980s. I wrote the reviews and figured out the ideas that they were frequently questioning. So, okay, so in physics, beyond the theory, each question has a particular idea behind it. There's a unique way of approaching each question. So, I gathered all those ideas related to humidities into a PDF, which I reviewed, and then I just understood where I was going wrong, what is the problem with my approach, and I understood my mistakes. And that helped me attempt all the humidity questions confidently, and I was able to get all the humidity questions right after that. So yes, question patterns do exist. So this is one of the smartest way to improve your marks in MCQs, I would say. So try to practice them, work smart, and improve and stabilize your marks in the areas that are always and frequently tested. Even in part two, there are repeated themes. For example, there will be mechanics, there will be waves or optics. Usually, you will be getting them. And the same goes for the others as well. You will get one question from one of the three fields. For electricity, electronics, there's always one question. And for matter and radiation, always one. For heat, you will always have an essay. So why don't you just practice and perfect those essays? I know what you guys might be thinking now. It's easier said than done, especially with the variation in the ideas. But your goal should be to just collect as many ideas as possible along the way by doing the past papers and model paper questions. Okay, so in your final paper, you will get only about 2.4 minutes per MCQs. Okay, so this is actually a lot when it comes to chemistry or bio. You might feel it's a lot, but that might, like, even though it is feeling like a lot for bio and chemistry, that's a short time when it comes to physics. So within that time, you need to understand the question, figure out the steps, do the calculation, and also you will have to finalize your answer. So you have a whole process going on within that 2.4 minutes for each question, and again you have to like continue that for 2 hours. So if you have seen similar ideas before, this is not going to be a problem. Even if the question itself is different, the question might be something that you have not seen before, but the idea that you might have had seen before, you will recognize that. You will recognize the approach. Your task is to gather as much of those ideas as possible so that when you face the paper, your timing won't be an issue. This was my experience too. At the end, I had practiced so many papers that when I saw a question, even if it was an unfamiliar one, the question itself wasn't something that I knew, but the idea behind that particular question clicked instantly. I was okay with getting questions wrong when I was doing practice. Like when I was practicing at home, I was okay. If even if I got this question wrong, it's okay. But did I understand the idea behind that question? That was my main motive. And if there was something I didn't understand, I made sure that I asked someone and clarified it. What if that idea came in my paper? That was the fear that I had, and that fear drove me. And I'm honestly very grateful that I did it because that's one of the quick and effective way I improved my physics MCQ marks. Then coming to the part two, structured essays. Okay, so I will be speaking about this structured essay thing later also. So actually, if I followed a protocol, basically 75-day practical method. I have shared with a few of you, like 75 days before the exam, every morning after I woke up, I did one practical question. This helped me so much. When I asked the others what they revised before the physics exam, most of them, they said that they were cramming the practical problems, practical issues. You see those in the latter part of the question, right? So, but for me, it wasn't a problem. Why? Because I had already done one every morning for 75 days. I didn't have to cram all the practicals, and their ideas were already in my head. So that was something like a routine for me. I know it's hard, okay? It's hard to do it. It's hard. Anything is hard at the beginning. So every beginner, okay, every expert, every professional was once a beginner. So I think that's one of the best ideas and habits that I had. I did it every morning because now you might ask me, why did I do it every morning? The reason why I did it every morning was because if I left it for any other time of the day, I wouldn't be consistent. Because now if you kept it for later, you'll be like, okay, later, and then it will become tomorrow, and then it's gonna become never. So the morning habit helped me stay disciplined. Okay, so that's all for physics, to be honest. And then let's move on to chemistry. Chemistry is a subject that is full of patterns and repetitions. Just take the MCQs. There are so many patterns there. If you attend classes, there are some teachers who give you those patterns. But if you don't get them in class, it's totally okay. You can do your own analysis. You can use the same method that you did for physics. Take 3 years worth of past papers and just analyze them, and you will be able to find them out. Now, let me like kind of specifically talk about some sections like chemical calculations, organic, physical, and all. There are definite patterns present. So perfect those patterns. Okay. So in part two, if you move on, the questions are also very well structured. Like structured essay one is always about Lewis structure. Structured essay two is always about inorganic, and fourth is organic. So these now when it comes to these structured essays, you can predict them. I mean, predict in the sense, this is only, it's going to be like topic specific. But essay 3, when you take structured essay 3, when you take, it is physical chemistry, and it can vary a bit from year to year depending upon the physical lessons. But the rest, if you see, there will be a proper fixed structure. So if you're struggling with inorganic, let's say structured essay 2. Okay, so what you can do is you can take like past 10 years of that particular structured essay and do it at a stretch. Okay, at a stretch, you have to do it. Don't spread it out. Don't spread it out for different days and do it. Do it at a stretch. Sit down, do it. Doing them this consecutively, this is going to help you realize which reactions and ideas are frequently questioned. So there are some reactions which come up repeatedly, and if you miss them, if you don't know them, it's going to be a huge loss for you. So that will be, you will be able to understand from there. And there are others which don't come as much as these do. So this is helping you to prioritize what is important. So once you're okay with inorganic, don't completely move on. Don't lose touch with it. When you're starting to do another one, like say organic, the same way, still do a little inorganic every day to keep it fresh. But also, there's one more important thing. In order to check whether you have really improved or not, you have to do full papers. So in the full papers, you will be able to see if your method has worked or not. And this actually helped me a lot. It finally helped me to even score full marks. Also, try tougher questions like like some school papers like Royal and all, or like papers like FWC Monitor, where there are proper schemes present. So please don't do any papers without schemes. So this will actually help you figure out whether you are just understanding the concept or you're just memorizing the past paper. So if you do past papers, sometimes it have been memorized for you. For me, like I was a person who memorized the questions very easily. So if I read a paper once, I remember the questions and I remember the answers. So I personally didn't repeat the same past paper questions too often. But that's subjective. Some people improve just by doing past papers only. So it depends on person to person. Okay, so this method is going to apply for essays as well. So there will always be an essay from electrochemistry, that, and so and so inorganic, organic. So practice those individually, just like how I said for structured essay, and then you will be able to see your improvement. So one thing I can say for people of 26 batch right now is that after finishing each lesson, immediately practice the essay and perfect it before moving on. So when you are like nearing to the end of the lesson, like you will be knowing, right? You will be knowing most of the things to do a particular essay if that section is for an essay topic. So you will be in a good place to do the essay. So perfect it while it's fresh. So you don't have to come back to it later. That's what I did with most of these important lessons, chemical calculations, inorganic, organic, and all. And I was so grateful that I did that, because later I had to improve and score well only in full papers. Okay, so that's it about chemistry. Now, moving on to bio, I did this with my friends here. Okay, so we took 4 years of past papers, divided them among us to just save timing, because we were doing this at the end, last moment, and we wrote down all the points. Okay, so we found out in bio MCQs too, there were patterns present. Like for example, I'll just mention a few of them. There was always one question from energy relationships, either enzymes, photosynthesis, or cellular respiration. There was always one from sensory organs like ear, eye, or sensory receptors. So these are some patterns that you can see. And when it comes to last few lessons like micro or applied, there is always a pattern to how they ask the questions too. So if you look closely and analyze it, you will be able to figure that out too. So if you can wrap your head around these patterns, it's going to become very easy to stabilize your marks, especially in the MCQs where people often struggle the most. They are like, how do they stabilize their score? Like in the finals, by checking the MCQ score. So you have to have that confidence, right? So that is why stabilizing MCQ marks are quite important, but equally part 2 is also important, okay? So when it comes to structure essays in bio, they are a bit different. For most people I've talked to, and for myself too, more than doing questions, the best way to revise bio is to go back and revise the theory. When you revise the theory, you revise more content. When you only do questions like classified questions, you revise less. Like if you do full papers, you cover different areas, but make sure like you revise them the areas that you feel like you have forgotten. So doing one full paper a week is necessary because it shows the areas that you have forgotten. But don't rely only on the past paper questions from individual units, because some people do unit wise questions. Like, for example, only unit 2 and then they move to unit 3, but that is going to be really slow because during that time you could revise the full unit and you can move on. So that's something to keep in mind. And when it comes to essay questions in bio, there's always usually one from unit 2. Unit 7 is there, obviously. You could see that from from our paper. And unit 4, unit 5 is also there. And the last one, not the 10th one, the ninth one is a mixture of the last 5 lessons. So, yes, that's a bit hard to, kind of, the last few lessons you learned at the end, and it's kind of hard to predict what would come. But apart from that, unit 3 also shows up sometimes occasionally. So you can plan your preparations accordingly, but don't plan like Zainab said, don't expect only that. You can prioritize, but make sure you have learned everything so that even if there is something going wrong, I mean, if there is an alternative, some pattern change has changed in your paper, you're always ready for it. So to summarize, question patterns are like one of the most important things when it comes to improving your MCQ marks. So if you want to stabilize your MCQ scores, question pattern analysis is one of the best methods. And to be honest, it has worked perfectly for me. Okay. So I hope you have got an insight on question pattern analysis. So next we have to move on to one of the most interesting topic people ask, paper revision classes. Is it necessary? Do you really have to attend it? Or is it okay if I don't attend it? Okay. So let's have Avasha to explain us why it is important or not important to attend paper revision classes.
Thank you, Nanda, for that speech as well. I think it covered basically every single point under that topic. So when it comes to paper revision classes, a topic that most people frequently ask is, to be honest, I think revision classes are optional, right? I think I personally consider paper classes as compulsory. It's subjective, obviously, at the end of the day, but I didn't attend revision classes. I only attended paper classes. The revision classes, I feel like, are optional if you have been consistent from the very beginning, if you have been, if you're comfortable with your theory, then there's no need for revision classes, unless you're a second shy student or a third shy student. When it comes to paper classes, treating it like it's compulsory would be the best option, but it depends on what paper class you attend as well. Right, so bio revision classes, I didn't attend a bio revision class or a paper class, but if you're revising a theory through papers or unit by unit, it's okay. But I think revising through papers would be more effective because when you revise theory, they don't do it like in several rounds, right? So if they start at one point, they will drag it till the end and revise it like theory. So I think it's better to just stay at home and revise it in several rounds. Unlike going to a class where they just will read through the skim to the chapter like a theory class, right? But revising through papers enables you to understand which sections you have forgotten. So papers are always the best option when it comes to revising a certain section, right? Especially for physics and chemistry. Paper classes are necessary. Treating it like necessary will, everyone who has gotten, I think, a result at least attended one paper class, either for chemistry, either for physics, or for both, right? Everybody who gets results usually attends paper classes, or they have this discipline that and make sure that they write papers by themselves individually as well. So if you have financial issues, if you have any difficulties, they're not compulsory, but make sure you instill in yourself the discipline to do papers at least individually by yourself, right? paper classes of physics and chemistry, you practice the points once again. You practice the MCQs, the ideas. You gather so many ideas, right? In chemistry, even if it's a revision class where you learn the theory again, there's no point in going to the revision class unless it's a special approach, like question-based revision, not just like learning the theory again, right? Sirs, there are some sirs, I'm not going to mention names, but there are some sirs who conduct paper writing sessions every week, like I mentioned. You go there, you sit there, write the papers within that certain amount of time. They correct it and they give it to you the next week with the marks and the ranks also, right? Papers are tough. Like these sirs, their papers are somewhat tough. It's challenging. There will be days where you want to give up, but consistency is key, guys. So there are these papers in all three mediums: Sinhala medium, Tamil medium, and English medium. You can try those papers. That's a really good way to improve your exam time management and handle exam stress as well. So there are some paper classes that are not, the discussions are not in English medium. If you can understand those two languages, Sinhala and Tamil, you can go to those classes. If you don't understand those languages, you're not fluent in those languages, just don't go to those classes. It's a waste of your money, it's a waste of your time as well. Understanding the discussion is the crucial point in attending a discussion class, right? A revision class, right? If you don't have sufficient resources within your medium, you can find your errors or ask a senior and a teacher to explain them. Make sure your errors are corrected. Make sure your doubts are cleared. So ultimately, revision classes are a choice, but paper classes, at least individual, like at home, doing it by yourself, proper paper practice, I think is compulsory. That's what I would say about paper classes. But another famous question that we often get asked is how many hours should one study? Like, is there a specific time limit? What is the effective amount of hours to study? Zainab, can you touch upon that?
Thank you very much, Avasha. You covered everything important under paper and revision classes. That was a great explanation. The question I am going to be discussing about next is something we all have during our A-levels. It's a question. Even my friends and I have asked this before. The question is how many hours should we study to get good results? First of all, we need to understand that each one of us is built differently. Our brains work differently. Our focus levels vary. So there's no single answer for everyone. There's no fixed rule like you must study this many hours to succeed. There's nothing like that. If you ask around, you'll find many people who study for totally different durations, and they still manage to do well. So if you are currently, let's say you are studying for 3 hours a day, and you have a friend who is studying for 10 hours a day, don't suddenly jump from 3 to 10. You might do it for a couple of days, but it's not going to be sustainable. Trust me, you'll get burned out really fast. Instead, increase your study time step by step. Maybe if you're studying 3 hours today, then you maybe you can try 3 hours and 15 minutes tomorrow, then 3 hours and 30 minutes the next day. So what I want to point out here is don't compare yourself with your friends or any other student you see, but rather compare your present self with your past self. Compare and compete with your present self. Make the competition between your present self and your past self, not with your friends or not with any other student you see. And what matters more than the number of hours is how well you study, how efficient your study sessions are. Even if it's just 1 hour, make it 100% efficient. Focus on quality, not just the quantity. Another thing why I really want to highlight is about the tuition classes, especially theory classes. Don't attend more theory classes than you need. 1 or 2 classes per subject would be very, very enough. In fact, 2 also can be too much sometimes. If you can manage with just 1, then that would be ideal, I would say. The key to A-level success is efficient self-work. Okay, there should be efficiency and self-work. Yes, there are rare cases where people go to multiple classes and they still do well, but that's very rare. While planning your hours, make sure to allocate sufficient time for all 3 subjects. Don't just study one subject every day just because you like it. Somehow make sure your overall preparation is very well balanced. For example, if you're aiming for let's say 90 marks in physics and only 40 in biology, that will not help you to get a good set score, right? I hope you guys have an idea about the Z-score, by the way. So even if the time allocation isn't perfectly equal for all three subjects, don't let the gap between your marks get too wide. Maintain your marks at a considerably balanced manner. One tip I would like to share with you all here today is, if there's a subject you struggle with or you don't enjoy, try starting your day with it. For me, it was biology. I didn't enjoy it much, so I made it the first thing I studied most days. That way, once I got it done, I could move on to the other subjects I like. At the end of the day, whether you like a subject or not, you have to balance them all to go for a good score. So that's what I wanted to share about managing study hours. Now let's move on to another big issue many of us really worry about during our A levels. That is syllabus coverage. Nada is here to explain about syllabus coverage. Over to you, Nada.
How many hours are you studying today? It's a subjective question, guys. Zainab, thank you for explaining us this a very elaborative topic qualitatively within a short time. About syllabus coverage, most people think that we have to cover the syllabus really early, like 6 months or even earlier before the exams. But again, this is a stereotype. It actually depends. It varies from person to person. But for the majority, here is how it usually works. Physics is manageable if you can cover the syllabus early, around like 4 to 5 months before. That's great. I actually covered it like around 4 to 5 months before as well. This is actually useful because it's going to give you a solid amount of time to do question practice, especially full paper practice where you need the time management and all. So you can also like go through several rounds of A-level papers if you have completed properly. So now about these rounds of A-level papers, even some of you have asked in the chat. I'll talk about that separately, but in addition to them, you can also practice school papers, FWC papers, Morato papers. Now, when I'm saying this, all of you, most of you guys would be like, Morato papers, seriously, do we need to practice that? I understand, even though they are difficult. Now they are going to give you some good ideas. Okay, the ideas behind those questions are simple, but the way they have asked and they are, the way they have asked and the way they have complicated the question by complicating the calculation is what is making the papers difficult. But the idea, that is important. So please get that idea. So, as of physics, I do recommend completing it around like 3 to 4 months in advance, because that is going to allow full months of paper training, which is important for time management. Okay. So next, let me go for bio. So with bio, even if you cover the syllabus 1 month before or 6 months before, it doesn't really matter. Do you know why? Because no matter how much early you cover the syllabus, if nothing stays in your head, there's no point. Like my friend Avasha here, the exam was at 1. She covered the syllabus at 11. So covered the syllabus in the sense she finished studying at 11 in the entire thing. So bio is not like physics or chemistry. So while learning, please mute. So while learning, you must also ensure you are retaining the content. Okay, so that is very important. I wouldn't use the word memorizing, but remembering things. Yeah. So whether it is using flow charts or mind maps or whatever method that you are employing in order to remember, it doesn't matter. It's important that you recall. And if you can't recall the content effectively, then covering the early syllabus won't help. It is just a waste of effort. In fact, if you finish it too early, chances are high that you will forget most of the things. You will feel confident at first. Like once you have covered, you will feel confident, thinking like you have covered it early. So let's say 6 months before you have covered, you have memorized. Let's say you have studied also. You have memorized, you have studied everything is done. But over those 6 months, there is a real risk that you are going to become overconfident and you are going to shift your focus entirely to physics and chemistry, thinking you have already got bio covered. Okay, let's say you're not focusing completely on physics and chemistry, but you won't be giving the importance of revision as you have to do for bio. So that will be a problem. Then what is going to happen? 1 month before the exam, you will realize that you don't remember as much as you did before. That is why I don't advocate finishing the syllabus of bio too early. So I personally completed it like a month before, and I believe that is more than enough. It's like this. You should be studying and revising consistently. So, what many 25 people face right now, I have heard that they are feeling at this point that they have to study the new content, like they have to cover new things, so they have to study those new contents, input those new things, and also they have to revise the old lessons. So, you are going to like feel this when you are mostly transitioning into your second year. When you enter grade 13, you suddenly have to recall all the grade 12 content while you are learning the grade 13 material as well. You are starting to feel overwhelmed, and there's like too much to study, too much to revise. This same problem, remember, is going to multiply if you are trying to cover the syllabus way too early. You will have so much to go and revisit and revise, and that will become extremely stressful. So take your time. Okay, study every day, go topic by topic, and you will finish the race just in time. When you hit that finish line, you will be ready. I think that is the kind of pace which would be much more effective for bio. Now, about chemistry. So, I also completed the chemistry syllabus a month before the exams, and honestly, many people also advise against covering the chemistry syllabus also too early. Even some, people who have taken ranks also, even they say that. Why? Because you will forget the important theory points. Chemistry and bio are different from physics in this regard. In physics, if you take, even though you have some theory to remember, they are not like the main focus. You're not usually like asked to explain concept in essay style questions, right? In physics. But when it comes to chemistry and bio, you are. Now, in chemistry, they can ask you like a little bit to explain about certain properties or something. And bio, obviously, you have essays. In chemistry, when it comes to the last 20 MCQs, it's very important that you have a good grasp of the theory. And there are explanation questions in part two as well, like I said. So if you cover the syllabus too early, you will risk forgetting these crucial parts. So with that being said, if you do cover the syllabus early now, some people who are 25 batch, they might have already covered the syllabus too early, right? Make sure you continue to practice as much as possible. So please give equal priority, just like how you would have done if you hadn't completed the syllabus. Give equal time to all three subjects. Even if you have completed one subject early, don't treat it as a burden that has already gotten off your shoulders. Don't be fooled into thinking that we all are humans. We all have the ability to forget. So keep that in mind. Keep practicing and doing the questions regularly. So, in my opinion, completing the syllabus for chemistry and bio 1 or 2 months before the exam is ideal. For chemistry, especially after completing each lesson and knowing there are questions from that section, like I said, please try to perfect that section at that time itself. Don't postpone your practice, because if you wait until the end to start question practice, some people are like this. They are like, first of all, I'll finish all the syllabus and then I'm going to do all the questions. I will finish the syllabus in first year. I'll start doing the questions in second year. This is going to be a waste of time. So if you wait until the syllabus is completely done, it is going to put you in a serious disadvantage. That approach won't help you to improve. So please don't fall into that trap. Practice questions alongside your lessons that you are doing and revise them regularly. So perfect yourself in each section as you go. If you master the topics one by one, even if you finish the syllabus just a month before, it is not going to be a problem. So this is all I can say about syllabus coverage. I hope I have covered as much as possible. So next, we are actually done with all the general issues that now we have tried our level best to include as much general issues as possible, and it has taken up so much of time. So the next we will be moving on to addressing the specific batches. So 27 batch will be starting off with our new freshers first of all. So 27 batch, then we will move to 26 batch, and for 25 batch and the repeaters, I will be giving them a special plan. So to start up with the 27 batch. Can you do it, Zainab, please?
Yes, Sada, sure. Thank you so much. So for the 2027 people here, first of all, a big congrats to each one of you for completing your O-levels. You all deserve a moment to breathe and celebrate it. But now, welcome to A-levels. Okay, I'm not here to scare you seriously, but I do want to be real with you. A-levels aren't just another step after O-levels. It's a whole new level, a different game, a tougher journey, but also a really rewarding one. Because this is what opens the doors to those childhood dreams you've always held on to. I need every one of you to understand this. A levels are not O levels. I'm saying it, I'm repeating it again. A levels are not O levels. You guys know how O levels felt. I'm not trying to downplay it, but trust me, A levels are a much bigger deal, much harder, much deeper, and much more important. Some of you might be thinking, well, O levels are over, let's just enjoy life now. I get it, but please don't fall into that trap. If you are one of those thinking that way now, it's gonna be hard to shift your mindset when it's time to focus on your A levels. So deep down, remember you still have your A levels ahead. I'm not saying don't enjoy at all. Of course you should, but just be mindful that a new and possibly the toughest chapter of your student life is starting now. And as you guys wait for your O level results to be released in the next few months, I want each one of you to listen to this carefully. Your O level results will not decide your A level results. They are completely independent. I've seen students who got 9 A's for O levels but couldn't make it through A levels, and I've also heard people who had average results for O levels but still nailed their A levels. So don't let either success or failure at O levels define you now. What matters is what you are going to do from today onward. What you are going to do in your A level. You forget about your past. You are going to have to work harder, way harder. You'll need to sacrifice more. You'll need to stay disciplined, be ready for the unexpected moments and tough days, be mentally prepared for it right from the beginning. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying start studying 24/7 from today onward. What I'm saying is start preparing yourself properly from now mentally. Build your mindset, have your goals, know what you want to achieve, and work towards it little by little with consistency and discipline. Those two are going to be your best friends throughout this journey. Trust me. One thing I really want to talk about is, especially for the 2027 batch people, it's about choosing your classes. Don't go to a class just because everyone else is going. Pick a class that suits your learning style and pace. It doesn't have to be too fast, doesn't have to be too slow. Talk to your seniors, ask around. Some classes drag the first few units for months, and honestly, that's just a waste of time. Don't fall into that and regret it later because that will be a huge loss if you do that. Choose your classes wisely, and you guys have so much time until your exams. And honestly, I kind of feel jealous because I didn't use my first year that well. I really wish I had. So don't take this time for granted. Be smart and make the most of your time by doing things that move you closer to your dreams. The road ahead isn't easy, but it's not impossible either. You will have ups and downs, you will have good days and bad days, but that's normal. What matters is that you keep getting up every time you fall. Please never feel shy to ask for help. Get advice from your seniors, your teachers, or anyone you trust. Ask questions and clear your doubts. Don't let them pile up. That's one of the biggest keys to perform well in A levels. And to wrap up, to each one of you in the 2027 batch, this is your time. This is your chance to build the future once you dreamed about. It won't be easy, but it will be worth it. So go ahead, walk this path with courage, with faith, and with belief in yourself. Make mistakes, learn from them, and rise stronger each time. I genuinely wish nothing but success for each and every one of you in another two and a half years. When your A level results are released, I hope to hear your name being celebrated in class. Until then, stay focused, keep going strong. All the very best. Your journey starts now. Now let's hear what Avasha has to address for the 2026 batch people. Over to you, Avasha.
Thank you, Zainab. When it comes to the 2026 batch, as far as I know, most of you told me that your first term exams have finished, right? But before that, let me congratulate all of you on completing your first year of A levels. You completed an entire year and you stuck through it. That's amazing. Amazing. So be proud of yourselves, right? But by now you guys would have understood that A levels are not just another set of exams. You would have done your O levels as well, and you would have gotten your results as well. But they have a greater stake. They need more commitment, more hard work, more disciplined, more a greater requirement for growth when compared to your O levels as well. And the stakes are high, and so are the expectations from your family, your friends, and even yourselves, right? Stress is a constant companion, sometimes, most times, many times. But the truth is, you're not alone in this. What you're feeling is what everybody is feeling right now. They might appear calm on the outside, but everybody on the inside is freaking out. Everybody is stressed. It's not just you. Even I run first, even district rankers, everyone is stressed. That's something that's common to everybody. Right. So let's talk about the pressure and the expectations. Right. So when you're the early stages of your A levels, you don't really have that much of content to study. But like once the first year is done, once your first term exams are finished, that's when the pressure, the expectation starts settling in, right? Especially from your school, from your parents, because they look at your marks, and if your marks aren't good, the pressure starts settling. Even if your marks are good, you begin to realize, okay, I'm supposed to start focusing from now on itself. The pressure is going to shape you as well, not just as a student, but as an individual as well. Now, you might have to the people who have completed their first term exams. Some of you will be happy with your marks, some of you will be disappointed with your marks, and that's something that we saw in the Google documents as well. Some of you are very disappointed with your marks, and that's okay, right? Remember, it's your first term exams, it's not your sixth term exams, right? It's just your first term exams. First term results are not the final result, right? They don't define your future successes. It's completely normal to have setbacks, right? So I know people who got 30s for FWC exams, for their term exams, not even the first term. I'm talking about third term, fourth term, and still managed to get A's. And I know people who got, my physics sir mentioned that he knew somebody who got 17 marks for an FWC exam, and he's in med school now, or engineering school. He basically got an A in physics, right? So like your marks are not going to define you, and more importantly, your first term marks are not going to define you. There are people who got 80s and 90s in their first terms, but they did not make it make it till the you get a good result ultimately at the A levels, right? So they don't define you at all. You have more than an year ahead of you. You have ample time to improve, to learn, to grow. There should be no rush, but there should be consistency, right? You should be focused on your finals. At the same time, work on short-term goals, basically. Focus on your finals, but work based on short-term goals, because that will become more productive. For those of you who have gotten good marks, don't let that go to your head. Don't let don't think, okay, I survived my first term exams, I got really good marks, I'm going to get 3 A's definitely in the future. No one's promising you that, right? And the people who did not get good marks, do not get overwhelmed, do not get stressed, do not get demotivated. You have more than an entire year to prepare. If you can change 3 F's to 3 A's within 6 months, if you work consistently, if you work properly, you can do so much within more than a year. So one of the worst pieces of advice that I have received is, many people say, have fun in your first year, start working from your second year, or else you'll get burnt out in your second year. For the first year, have fun, go on trips, go out every now and then, go to family functions, go to this wedding, go to that wedding, have fun in your first year. Now, even though this advice came from a good place in the heart, maybe that's one of the worst piece of advice you can follow. I'm not saying you can't take occasional breaks to recharge, and I'm not saying that do not look after your mental health, because occasional breaks are going to improve your mental health. But treating the first year as a break is a mistake, right? Because the habits you form this year will carry you to the second year. The discipline that you develop now will harness you for the challenges that you face in the future, right? And this is not to demotivate the 2025 students who have 6 months to their exam. I'm not saying that if you don't focus in your first year, you're not going to pass the exams. I'm not saying that. But people, like I mentioned, people have changed their results in the last 6 months alone. I've seen that. I've heard of that. People who did not even focus for like the first and a half years, they ended up in paralegal medical faculty as well. Like it's possible, it's completely possible, but it requires a lot of discipline, a lot of willpower. And is it something that we recommend to juniors, to the 2025 2026 batch, or the super juniors? Absolutely not. Even though it is possible, you don't want to test if you can handle that amount of stress at the end of the day. Anyone can do anything if they set their mind to it. I believe that, but I'm not going to recommend you taking a break in the first year and then starting to study in the second year as well. And like Zainab mentioned, you guys also have enough time to experiment with different classes and figure out what style, what your learning style is. So make sure that the class you go to, their teaching style aligns with your learning style as well. So some of you will be visual learners where diagrams, charts, mind maps can help you understand. You can be auditory learners where listening to lectures or discussing topics with classmates will help you absorb the material better. Some of you, like me, we thrive through active learning. So basically, I used past papers, I used questions to understand the theory. I attended classes where the sir would explain the theory with questions and he would place a lot of importance on questions as well. So figure out what works for you, figure out what classes are good for you, choose the right classes, choose the right teachers, and make sure you commit from early on itself. Make sure your mindset is good too, right? Some people I personally know, the third term exams have finished and they're saying just the third terms. Okay, they have more than an year. I think they have exactly an year to prepare for their finals. The third term exams have finished, and they come up to me and they came up to me and they told me, I'm gonna study for I'm gonna prepare for the second shot. They have an entire year to prepare, but they're like their mindset is I'm going to try, I'm going to attempt the second shot. If you have that sort of mindset, you're not going to it's very difficult for you to survive through the exam. So make sure your mindset is a positive mindset. Make sure the people you surround yourself with have a positive influence on you as well. So in conclusion, my final message will be this: you have everything it takes to succeed. Some of you will be gifted, naturally gifted. Some of you will have to put in more hard work than the others. But people who are gifted, if they don't work hard, they can't survive through A levels. Because subjects like biology, no matter how gifted you are, unless you memorize or unless you study the concepts, they're not going to stick in your head. So it's not the gifted students that pass the exams, it's the hardworking students that ultimately end up with the best scores, right? You have everything it takes to succeed. It's not easy, but it'll definitely be worth it. Okay, trust me, it'll definitely be worth it. Believe in yourself, because with the right mindset, you can achieve anything. I'm not saying you have to be positive every single day, but make sure that you don't stop believing in yourself. Make sure that you have a support group around you that still believes in you. So keep pushing forward, because this is just the beginning of a bright future ahead. Thank you. And with that, I'll be passing on to Nada, who will be talking to the 2025 batch and the repeaters with a special plan for them as well.
Thank you, Avasha. So now I will be giving you guys a 6-month study plan for the 25 A-level students and the repeaters. So remember, this plan is an overall one, so you can adjust accordingly to your requirements. So for both the 25 batch and the repeaters, these final 6 months are extremely crucial. One of the most effective ways to improve your marks, especially in the MCQs, is by following the MCQ patterns that we discussed earlier. So it's a high time to practice on them. So these methods are tried, tested, and if you follow them properly, you will definitely notice a significant improvement in your marks. So stick to them closely, and with consistent effort, you will see the results. So in addition to working on MCQs, it's extremely important that you write full papers for all 3 subjects regularly. This practice is not just for testing your knowledge or for revision, but it is also to identify what areas you have forgotten, and to also overcome your exam fear, especially when it comes to bio, you might not know what sections that you have forgotten. So that is important. So regular full paper practice is going to allow you to revise more effectively and will condition your mind so that by the time of the actual exam, it just feels like you are just writing another paper. The A-level paper would be just like another paper if you do full papers continuously. That mindset is powerful. It removes the stress and it is going to build confidence in you. So this is why it is essential that you don't stop following full papers alongside all your other revision strategies. So Avasha had mentioned that there are tutors who are conducting full papers likewise every week, and they correct and they give it to you. So even though those papers are difficult, I suggest you to do them, because you at least develop your exam fear there. You don't you kind of like overcome your exam fear, and you learn to manage your time. You know how to choose. You know how to choose the questions accordingly. You will know what is easy for you. So all of that you can test and you can try if you do full papers on a regular basis, and that is in an exam environment. For physics specifically, try to complete the finish syllabus earlier, a little earlier, like I said. So the earlier you finish, the more time you will have to practice full papers on your own. So make sure you allocate enough time for past paper practice because they are essential. Once you have covered all the enough past papers, like all the past papers, and once you have felt comfortable, then only you can go and start doing other papers. But it is not mandatory if past papers have been done thoroughly. But that's something that I have I got this advice from people like from my batchmates and my seniors who they say that they have done only past papers to get through, but that's not something based on my experience. Okay, for me, I felt like past papers was not enough, so I should be honest, right? So my experience, I felt past papers were not enough and I needed model papers, and I believe even Avasha and Zainab felt the same too. So for the repeaters, this message is especially for you. You might feel like you have forgotten a lot, and there's a huge content to remember. And I think it is perfectly okay, because some of you might have started right after your results, but even then the gaps in the memory, they are natural. So what's important is that you don't let that overwhelm or paralyze you. So the key is to start from somewhere. Don't just sit back and stress and overthink. Just like Avasha said, mindset is everything. So start taking action. For physics in particular, remember that you might have finished your syllabus during your first attempt. Okay, so if you finished your syllabus during your first attempt, and even if you couldn't got through, maybe the problem that you had was the lack in practice. So that is probably where you might have gone wrong in the first place. So now what do you need to do? You need to take some time to evaluate what exactly went wrong. Was it all three subjects? Was it just one or two? Try to pinpoint the reasons. Even though you had finished the syllabus, what was it that you couldn't get through? What was pulling you behind? Was it that you didn't get enough time to practice questions, or was it because you didn't understand the theory thoroughly? Identify the core reasons behind your previous mistakes and make sure you correct them. So this process of self-correction is especially important for repeaters, because your main task now is to avoid repeating the same errors that you had done in your first attempt. So that's how you move forward and make this second attempt count. And even for 25 batch, these last 6 months require a strong focus on error correction. I cannot emphasize this enough. Please listen to me carefully. It doesn't matter how many full papers you write. If you don't reflect on and correct your mistakes, you will not see a real improvement. Of course, sometimes you may remember that you made a mistake in this particular section in this particular paper, and you may not try to repeat it. But is it humanly possible to remember each and every mistake you made from every paper that you have done? No. So that's why it is important to go back, analyze your papers, look at the questions you got wrong, and ask yourself, what exactly went wrong here? Was it a gap in the theory? Or was it an issue with how you approach the question? You need to correct it immediately. I once got this advice from a very wise person who shared a real incident with us. So I'm going to share that incident with you guys as well. So he told us about a girl who didn't get a good result. I mean, a great result in her first try, if strong enough to get to her goal. So during her second attempt, she ended up getting a rank, a very good rank. So when he asked her what made that improvement possible, she told him, "Sir, you kept telling us to do error correction from day one. From day one, you have been telling us to go back to our papers, review our mistakes. You told this in 2022, but I heard you during my second attempt in 2023." And that made all the difference. So this is something you should take very seriously to your mind, especially in these final months. So don't ignore it. So what actually that girl is trying to say is, Sir has been saying since her first try. She didn't mind it, even though she heard it. She didn't take it to her heart. But in her second try, she thought, maybe this is the reason why I couldn't get through in my first try. And yes, that was the reason. And I think, and according to what I have talked to, based on what I have talked to for most repeaters, they haven't done this, and they think that this is a very effective method as well. So when it comes to bio, I strongly recommend that you start planning your revisions properly from now itself. So this is something I personally started doing a little later, like towards the end, but it really worked well for me. Okay, a plan I'll tell you right now. So I started to try to reduce the amount of time that I was spending to revise a particular unit step by step. For example, let's say in the beginning, it took me around 2 to 3 days to revise unit 2. Okay. And about 5 days to revise unit 4, completely, and a full week to revise unit 5. This was while I was balancing the other subject as well, not just focusing on bio. So later on, what I did was when I began my next round of revision, I deliberately reduced the time I spent for the particular lesson. For example, I brought down the time I took for unit 2 to 1 or 2 days. Okay, earlier it was 3 days, right? So I tried to reduce it to like 1 day or 2 days. Eventually, by the time the Mora exams came around, so I did Mora 2 exam. So when the Mora exams came around, I trained myself to revise more efficiently. For example, like our bio paper, I think it was on a Sunday. All the papers were on Sunday. So if it was on Sunday, I began my revision by Friday morning. I was able to cover unit 2 within 3 hours. That was because of practice. Practice in the sense I trained myself to reduce the time I took for revising. So you guys have 6 months now and you can like very effectively do this. I think I did this like starting 3 months before, like from 3 months before the exams, I started to do this. And then after finishing unit 2, I started to revise unit 4. So unit 4, I revised like at night. And then Saturday, I finally covered the entire unit 5. And the remaining, like the last few lessons, I was able to do it on Sunday morning. So basically, I was able to revise the most important 5 units within just 2 days. So this process really trained my mind to be faster and more focused. By doing this regularly, your brain just learns to process and also recall the information quickly. That is something very important during your exams. So the goal here is that, so understand what is the goal, okay? The goal here is that just before your A levels, within 4 or 5 days, you will be able to revise all the 5 main units from scratch, from fresh, you will be able to revise. So just think about this, okay? Now imagine you have revised everything, you have read the entire thing 5 days before the exam, within 4 to 5 days before, like within 4 to 5 days of the exam, or like reading this a month before. Which one will have you have a stronger impact when you are reading a question in the paper? Of course, if you are able to revise everything 5 days before, within 5 days before, it is going to remain fresh. So that will keep everything in your memory before the exam. So rather than revising everything long ago and forgetting it, if you can do this, this is going to be really, really effective. So you must train yourself for this approach. And that requires frequent revision rounds, starting from when? Starting from now. Okay. So one more thing is, this is like a hack to make your brain kind of think into like it kind of trains your brain, and it kind of tricks your brain into thinking that you know the content very well and you're just trying to reduce the time for revising. So this is another trick so that you can use, and if you can do these constant revision rounds, I actually guarantee you this is going to be helpful. So this same revision strategy is more effective than just doing unit-wise papers. So in like Avasha said, like there might be some revision classes and all. So they just start from the beginning and they go till the end, just like how they do in theory classes. But just stay at home, revise in rounds like this. So instead of dragging for the entire year, you might have finished like 6 or 7 rounds, and that is going to be really effective. So in fact, just doing the only unit-wise papers is going to be the slowest way to revise the entire syllabus. Using proper spaced repetition and refining your revision time, that will allow you to revise everything efficiently before the final exam. So start implementing this now, whether you are a repeater or if you are 25 batch, it doesn't matter. So start implementing this now. You are not late. Finally, for physics and chemistry, make sure you practice the questions regularly using the methods that we discussed earlier, especially the structure essay method and also the essay pattern method. This is going to improve your answers and it is going to boost your scores. But again, don't forget to do full papers in parallel, because all your improvements, whether it is error correction or whether it is MCQ patterns or whatever it is, whether it is the efficient revision plan that you are having, it will only be visible whether it is working if you put them into test in full papers. That is where the real growth happens. So please make sure you do that as well. Additionally, when you consider starting the daily physics practical now, which I mentioned before, this approach, which I personally followed in the last 75 days before my exam, proved highly effective for me. Starting this now, if you start this now with 6 months ahead, this is going to provide ample time to thoroughly prepare the exam and excel in the structured essay. Okay. Another thing for 25 badge, it is important to know that you might still be covering theory, right? So you might be still covering new theory and you have to revise the previous topics and learn the new material. So to manage this effectively and avoid feeling overwhelmed, make it to revise everything. Like make it a habit to revise whatever you have learned in class on the same day. So now, even if you haven't been doing this like all this time, start today. It's okay. It's never too late. Something is better than nothing. Start today. So whatever you have revised, whatever you have studied, try to revise it within today itself. This practice is going to ensure that you don't accumulate a lot of topics. So finally, your revision process is going to become more manageable, and in the long run, this is going to be less stressful as well. So if you can cover what you are studying in the theory classes and revise them now itself, you will have more time to revise the previous ones as well. And repeaters, since you have already finished learning the syllabus, most probably it is a very good idea to start full papers every day. I know this might be difficult, but trust me, it is going to be really, really worth it. And this can be done for people like if there are 25 batch people who have completed the syllabus early as well, you can do this. So if you feel like you have forgotten some theories, the repeaters, it's okay. Just start by doing a physics MCQ paper. So let's say you're starting a physics MCQ paper today. Not today, tomorrow. Okay, today is over, right? So then do a physics part 2 day after tomorrow. So keep switching like that, MCQ one day, part 2 the next. And also if you're doing the physics part 1 tomorrow, make sure you do part 2 of another subject like biochemistry on the same day. That way you're covering all these three subjects evenly, and then you have to like in the other subject that you're choosing also alternate it, part 1, part 2, part 1, part 2. So use the rest of the day. Now you won't be doing the paper for the entire time, right? You're going to specify the time. So part 1 2 hours, part 2 3 hours. That means only for 5 hours you'll be writing paper. Easier said than done, but it is going to be worth it. The rest of the time that you have, use it to correct your mistakes. Go through your mistakes, fill in the theory that you are weak at, and find more questions to practice. This is also a good time to practice and improve the MCQ patterns that we have already talked about. Okay, so I personally use this method for physics. In the last 20 days before my exam, we had a 20-day gap, right? So I use this method, like I did a full paper every day, and it really, really helped me. But it was really, really difficult to keep the consistency. But there are only 6 months left. Okay, so you have to get yourself motivation. You should be self-driven. Nobody can motivate you right now, so please make sure you're consistent. You guys have 6 full months ahead, so you have more than enough time to follow this plan. Like Avasha mentioned, even though 6 months would mean a short time when we think about it, there's so much that you can do to improve in these 6 months. Even if there are still parts of theory that you haven't covered, you can parallelly do this. Okay. And last but not the least, you need to understand this, that no matter what marks you get right now, so many people are demotivated by the marks that they get right now. They might have fifth term exams, fourth term exams. Don't let them demotivate you, please. Especially in the FWC or term test, there may be times when you lose your marks, and some of you might not have even covered the full syllabus required for those exams. Okay, so don't let that bring you down. If you are doing weekly full papers, aim to improve by at least a few marks compared to your previous paper. That's how real progress happens. Because if you're trying to like let's say you have improved like this. So today, this paper you have taken like 40s, and the next paper you write, you have gone to 80s. So do you think that marks is going to be stable? No. If you have a strong foundation only, you are going to be stable. So even if the growth is going to be slow, it's okay. Small steps lead to big success. But for that, you need to work smart as well as hard. So you have to put effort into correcting your mistakes and revising the parts of bio that you have forgotten. Make sure you are always improving yourself. You should be better than the version of yourself from yesterday. So put in the work, make that happen. Okay, so that's all I have got for the plan for 26, 25 and the repeaters. So I have I have actually mentioned some of the effective methods that has worked for me, but I couldn't do it 6 months prior. I did it at the end, like 2 months only. So I believe if you do it now, you can see a really, really great result. All right, so with that being said, so we have addressed the badges now, and now we have to specifically move on to the subject related issues. So we have what we have done here is we have taken a look in the Google form and we have specified the topics and we are going to speak all the issues under one subject. Okay. So by with starting with bio right now, we have Zainab to address most of the issues that you guys have mentioned in Google form regarding biology. Over to you, Zainab.
Thank you very much, Nada. Yes, we'll be addressing each subject now. When it comes to biology, the first thing that usually comes to our minds is the word memorizing. I guess most of you here can agree with me on that. But before getting into that, before getting into memorizing, I want to make something clear. Biology is all about the resource book. It is all about the resource book. If you take a look at past papers, you will see that the questions are well within the limits of the resource book. Even in our paper, 2024 paper, although there were a lot of new areas being questioned, those areas that they were areas that hadn't been questioned before, they were still within the resource book. They were not out from the resource book. Now talking about memorizing, so that was the main point that I wanted to mention about resource book. It's all the limits are always within the resource book. Next, it's about the memorizing, which I mentioned in the beginning. Yes, there's definitely a lot to remember in biology. I agree with it, but it's possible if you use the right technique. One thing my friends and I did was making biology charts. So what are these biology charts? Um, Basically, you take the printed content from the resource book and put it onto a sheet of paper in your own way. You can use arrows, flowcharts, mind maps, tables, even cartoons. Just use your creativity and put it in a different way. Most of us retain things better when they are visually organized and when they are colorful, especially. Just to be clear, I'm not talking about short notes where you skip the parts you don't like or where you skip the parts you feel like they're not important. You're not cutting content, just changing how it's presented to you. Instead of the paragraph after paragraph format you see in the resource book, which is really overwhelming, you turn it into something that's more engaging, that's more easier to look at. Um, so this is how the charts helped us. These charts helped us a lot, especially when it came to the essays. Speaking of essays, this is where a lot of students lose marks. But if you study well for essays, even the structured essays and MCQs, they can become easier. They will automatically become easier to study the essays very well. What helped me personally for essays was writing essays every day, checking them using the resource book and the charts I've made, learning from my mistakes, like what I missed out or the words that I've written incorrectly. It really helped me improve, but I want to say this method might not work for everyone. Writing essays every day that might not work for everyone. For example, Nada here, she didn't find this approach useful. Instead, she improved her essays by revising the resource book again and again. So it really depends on the person. It's completely subjective. Try out a few methods and see what works best for you to improve the essays. There's always another part of the essays is there's always confusion about how to write the essay. Should it be point forms? Should it be paragraphs? Or should it be in both point forms and paragraphs? Just to clarify, don't write in point form. You can possibly lose marks. Um, essays should be written in proper paragraphs. Okay, remember that you should not write in point forms but paragraphs. And about the diagrams that you have to include in your essay, let's say there's an essay about mitochondria, the structure of mitochondria. Should you draw the diagram? Yes. Even if the marks aren't guaranteed, it's always better to be on the safe side, right? So you better include it anyway. Same goes for comparisons. Like let's say there's a question to compare DNA and RNA structure. So even then, for comparisons, a table might seem easier. But still, you have to write it in paragraph format to get full marks. That's how the biology marking is. Okay, you have to understand that, you have to accept that, you have to follow that to get full marks. Avoid using tables in essay. So you should avoid tables. You should include diagrams, and you should avoid point forms, instead paragraph. Um, Another important part of biology is definitions in structured essays. So what I did was I collected not all, honestly, but most of the definitions I came across while studying into a separate book. Then every night before I go to sleep, I'd ask my sister to test me on 5 to 10 definitions from the book I have. So where yeah, of course there were days I skipped, but I tried to stay consistent. Just saying the definitions out loud over and over again, it really helped me remember them through spaced repetition. You can ask your parents, siblings, or even friends to quiz you the same way. I believe that would help you to remember the definition. Let's talk about tables. Biology, if we open the resource book, we have tables after tables. Some biology tables are easier to remember and they stick in your long-term memory, but others like, the plant nutrition table, vitamins, minerals tables, they don't stick that easily. For tables like those, which don't stick easily, what you can do is prepare short notes in your own way in advance, just to revise at the night before the exam. So that way it will stay in your short-term memory and you will be able to ace the questions you come across in your paper. For example, if you take plant nutrition table in biology, I guess that's a table that I found very difficult to memorize. So what you can do is for tables like that, you can the example I'm taking is plant nutrition table. You can group the elements related to nitrogen metabolism. There are many elements related to nitrogen metabolism, so you can group them. Or those that cause chlorosis in plants, that's another group. Anything that helps you quickly recall those tough facts when needed. That way, even if it doesn't stay in your long-term memory, you will have it in your short-term memory, and you'll be able to do the questions in that you ca- that you that are thrown at you in the exams. Finally, biology. Let's talk about revision. Revision, I should say, it's everything in biology. Just memorizing once won't make it stick forever. If it does, then you're not a human. You have to keep revising over and over again. Yes, it can be boring, but try to find ways to make it less boring and more engaging. I know it's easier said than done, but try not to just study it once and forget about it. You might study a topic today, but 2 months later, if you open the resource book, it might feel like alien to you. It will feel completely new again. And that's okay, that's normal. All you have to do is have that courage and keep revising. Keep revising until you can recall, until you can remember everything perfectly. Use spaced repetition, practice active recall, and keep going. It takes courage, it takes effort, it takes dedication, but it's totally possible. I With that, I hope I covered almost everything about biology, and I really hope it helped you in some way. Let's now see what Avasha has to say about physics. Over to you, Avasha.
Thank you, Zainab. So, physics is an issue that many students are facing right now. But before we move on to the issues you're going to face in physics, let's talk about the stereotypes that physics usually has as a subject. So most of you might think the stereotype that physics is a difficult subject, especially for biology students. It's almost like an impossible subject. Not really, because if you guys look at the average this time of the biology paper marks and the physics paper marks, physics was comparatively good, biology was really low. So even if you're a biology student, to many students, physics is becoming a more and more manageable subject. And biology, for example, is even though biology is losing its ease. Not that I'm going to demotivate you here, but I'm saying physics is not this difficult subject. It's not impossible just because you're a biology student as well, right? So let's one of the issues that was addressed to us in the Google document was how to choose the questions in the physics essay paper. Right? Like I have had certain people tell me that they chose, for example, they chose mechanics simply because they were taught mechanics for one entire year. Like if you go to certain classes, they usually teach mechanics for one entire year. And they felt, okay, I studied mechanics for one entire year. If I don't even do a part two question, it's not going to be worth it. But here's the thing, guys. The examiner doesn't know how long you did mechanics for. He doesn't know if you did mechanics for 6 months or 1 year. He doesn't know anything about you. The only thing he knows about you is the index number. Doesn't even know your name, right? And another mistake people often make is they have this, they have this mindset, like it's like they want to impress the examiner again. They're like they choose the hardest questions. Like for example, many people find magnetic field difficult, and even if they themselves find magnetic fields difficult, simply because of the reputation it has of being a difficult question, they will choose that question on purpose simply to impress the examiner, simply to boast that I chose a difficult question, I answered a difficult question. The examiner doesn't even know your name. Ultimately, at the end of the day, make sure that the questions you choose are easy questions, that are going to definitely get you marks. Because the results, everyone's going to know your result. No one is going to ask you what question you did for physics, what question you did for chemistry. I even forgotten the questions I did, or the questions I did for physics and chemistry and biology. Point is, at the end of the day, it's about your results. It's not about impressing anybody, right? Right. So, what you have 10 minutes in additional reading time. Take those 10 minutes, use it properly. Don't take the paper, don't take the part two paper and immediately start answering a question. Like I was sort of expecting to do the sound question in part two as well. Okay. And because sound is usually an easy topic, I found sound easy. I was expecting to do sound question. And when I opened the paper, it was a question and they had Doppler's effect. They had these I can't read them, pressure wave, sound waves. It was somewhat difficult. I just skimmed through the question. I couldn't answer it. Now, if I had this mindset, I am definitely going to do sound. I don't think I would have moved past that block. I don't think I would have moved past that barrier. Now, because I was sort of more flexible in choosing the questions, I told myself it's okay. I know we prepared for this more or less, but this is a hard question. We don't want to risk it. Let's choose an easier question. And instead of sound, I chose magnetic fields. I didn't find magnetic fields as easy as I found sound, but the question was easy. And ultimately, it gave me my results as well. So remember, just because you learn it for a long, like mechanics, just because you learn mechanics for a longer time or any other lesson for a longer time, just because you, prepare yourself for a certain question more, for a certain topic more, doesn't mean that's the question that you should pick. Or it's not about picking the hardest question to impress the examiner. It's about picking the easiest question. So use the 10 minutes in additional reading time properly. Like you don't have to use the 10 minutes to look through the structured essays, because why? Those are compulsory. You have to do it anyhow. But looking through the essays where you have options, read the question. I'm not telling you to like read the whole essay. I'm telling you to at least read the questions. Like they read what they expect you to answer. Read the question to see, okay, can I handle this right now? Can I manage these questions with time, with the proper timing as well? So go through that. Use that 10 minutes wisely. Don't just immediately jump to a question. That's something that I have had experience in term tests and I have come to regret as well. So I would like begin a question. I wouldn't read the sub. I wouldn't even read the essay. I would just read the sub questions, or sometimes I would read the essay. I wouldn't read the questions. The essay looks easy, but the questions are hard, and I would continue writing the answers, and halfway through I'd get stuck. And turns out I had to cancel the whole question, move on to another question, wasting around 15 to 20 minutes. So make sure that 10 minutes addition reading time, you use that to read. That's why they have mentioned it specifically as reading time, right? So scan all the questions before you pick it as well. So if there are some questions that have vague, unfamiliar wording, right? So if the wording is not something that is, that you find easy, don't try that question. Like try reading it again and again. But if the wording, I'm not talking about the question, but if the wording is confusing, don't attempt that question, and eliminate your weakest topics, right? Even if you study that topic a lot, if there's a weakest the topic that you're like the weakest in, don't take that risk in the exam. You might have practiced a lot, but if you're weak in it, don't take the risk unless you have to, unless it's like a structured essay or compulsory MCQ, right? And also when it comes to part two questions, make sure that you choose questions that you can answer within a proper timing as well. Like some questions, they require long calculations. They require like decimal points, fractions. Like if that is something you struggle with, like there are some people who find that easy, do that. But if it's something you struggle with, then go for a more theory-based question, because that is going to be a risk for your time management as well. And one of the strategies that helped me during my O levels and my A levels was the what when I was given an essay type question, for example, mechanics usually have this long paragraph and then you have questions. So one of the pieces of advice that I was given was, first of all, read the question and then read the paragraph so that you know what they're asking of you. So read the question first, then read the paragraph, then the answer you'll be able to pick out the answer immediately. You can try that as well, right? And then remember, the paper isn't judged on your paper is just judged on the questions you choose, and it's judged on how well you answer as well. So don't fall into emotional traps like, I spent an entire year learning mechanics, I have to do this. So be smart, go for confidence and scoring power. Okay, that's important. Another issue that people face is they have this exam pressure. They tell me like one of the things that we found in the Google document was, when it comes to answering question in physics, it's not just about answering the question, it's about reading the question, getting the idea of the question, and figuring out what equations to use as well. Right? One of the things that I was taught was understanding a question was half answering the question, right? Because in the exam, you are reading, you are interpreting, you are selecting equations, and you're deciding on the approach as well under pressure. Some of you go completely blank under pressure as well. And the only way to overcome this, like Naga and Zainab have mentioned, and I mentioned as well, is to do more papers. The more papers you do, the more that exam fear goes away. And it's not about just doing papers by yourself individually in your own room. It's about doing papers in a competitive exam environment as well. That's crucial also. So when you are stuck, slow down to speed up. It sounds contradicting, but spending an extra 30 seconds to read the question carefully, can save you 5 minutes of read work. So read the question twice, underline the keywords, underline what they're asking for, or highlight. If you like work better with colors, then highlight the question. Understand the topic first. So when you're like right now, one of the best things I can suggest you guys try doing is, when you're trying past papers, like Nada said, next to the question, don't just write the topic. Like if you're trying a question like on heat, don't just write heat. Write the subtopic as well. For example, thermometry. For example, conduction. For example, convection. Write the subtopic as well. So when you categorize questions based on the subtopics, based on the section of the syllabus, you are like, it's very easy to solve them, because the equations that are under the topic come to you more easily, and you'll be able to figure out uh, the answer as well. And also remember that not every question will sorry not don't assume any question, right? Sometimes a question will look familiar, but especially in physics, examiners love to twist questions, right? So don't rush to an answer because it seems similar to a past question. So that's a mistake I often made. And I tried model papers and I felt like I had done this question before. I didn't even bother doing the question. I just simply underlined whatever answer that felt familiar with me. So don't assume, it's dangerous, okay? And improve your concept clarity also, right? The better you understand concepts, the easier it is to interpret a question correctly. Using maps, flowcharts, concept maps and flowcharts, summary sheets can also help you revise. So one of the things that I did was I took a big sheet of paper and for each topic, like for mechanics, under mechanics, I would write all the equations only. Under optics, I would write all the equations only. So when I was stuck with the question, I would like think of that sheet of paper, that topic, and the equation underneath. And remember, like every question in physics has an equation behind it, neither. So once you figure out what equation it is, it's all about a matter of applying that equation. So basically, I thought of every single possible equation under the topic and I looked at what would fit. At least not for every question. That is only for the questions you're stuck in, because that's somewhat time consuming. Okay. And also when it comes to time management in physics. Now you guys did all of us, and you might think you had to do 30 or 40 MCQs, right? For all of us, 40 MCQs in 1 hour. So obviously managing 50 MCQs in 2 hours will be a piece of cake. That's not the case, right? every one of you has struggled with time management, especially in physics, right? Even though physics is not just about, because physics is not about memorizing. It's not about memorizing formulas. It's about thinking critically, right? You can't. I don't know if people memorize formulas. I don't recommend you memorizing formulas. How I remembered formulas was I did a lot of questions. I applied the formulas many times again and again. Even Abba and Zainab, I don't think we ever memorized the formula. We just did a lot of questions, and naturally the formula, without us even trying to, it's stuck into our head, right? So, and sorry, right. So when you add in like this 2-hour MCQ paper and 3-hour structured paper, you will run out of time, even if you know the content. If you haven't had enough exam practice, you will be so fluent in theory, you'll be able to quote directly from the resource book maybe. But if you haven't practiced papers, your time management skills are going to be horrible, basically. I don't want to sugarcoat it, they're going to be horrible. So how do you overcome this issue? You have to practice papers, yes, but you have to practice papers under timed conditions, right? Do many papers. For physics, it's all about practice. Neither do past papers, do model papers after you do past papers. Make sure past papers are priority at least the last 20 years. And once you're comfortable with past papers, once your knowledge is clear, once your reviews are written, um, then only move to model papers. But when you're doing these papers, set a timer. Like if you guys are like going to start doing past papers or going to start practicing model papers on a timing, you don't have to like usually in the exams, A-level exams, one MCQ is 2.5 minutes, right? And then structure essay is 15 minutes. One structure essay is 15 minutes. So if you're just beginning to do questions, you can maybe try to do one structured essay in 30 minutes and one MCQ within 5 minutes. You can increase the time in the beginning. But when time goes on, you can like slowly decrease it minute by minute. But my point is to do practice under timed conditions. Buy a timer. I don't feel like they're affordable as well. I don't recommend using phones because there are so many distractions in the phone. So I bought a timer. They're not expensive as well. It's very affordable. You can buy that, or you can use a watch also. Pretend it's an exam. Every time you practice, pretend it's an actual exam. The more you stimulate that environment, the faster and more confident you become. You don't only just improve your time management skills, you also protect yourself from exam fear as well, right? So then another method which you guys can use is the scan and plan method. This is something that my sir taught me. Is at the start of the exam, quickly scan through all the questions. Like this is even for MCQs, even scan through the questions, right? Like for example, you look through the first 10 questions, then you look through the next 10 questions. When you look through the first questions, like roughly, okay, overall scan, do the ones you're confident with. Start with the confident questions, right? And then gain momentum and avoid wasting time on tough questions. Now, there are certain people, like for example, what Nanda used to do was in the beginning, she used to start doing the paper from the back, right? She used to start doing paper from 50 and she moved backwards, right? She found it easy. But then again, even though it worked for her, she got really good marks. Sir recommended her not to do it. Why? Because the examiners have this pattern. From your first MCQ, there's a pattern your examiners follow because they know your mind and they know how you're thinking. So there's a pattern if you start from the beginning. But when you're starting from the beginning and if you find a question you're stuck with, don't waste time looking at that question. Don't waste time figuring out what the answer is. Move on to the next question. Give yourself 2.5 minutes. You don't get the answer, move on to the next question. Don't waste time for one question because you won't just be wasting time for one question. Ultimately, at the end of the day, you won't be able to do 10 questions. Like you'll have to like go, you have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and pick an option. At the end of the day, if you waste time on one question, you don't understand as well, right? And make sure learn to stay calm. The only way you can't work under stress. You can't work under exam fear. And the only way to overcome exam fear is to try more and more questions, right? Remember, time management in physics isn't about rushing. Okay, it's not about rushing. It's about preparing your brain to think clearly under pressure, right? It's about turning practice into instinct. Because when the exam comes, you don't want to you kind of want to flow through the exam. You want it to go smoothly, right? So with consistency, with proper practice, make sure that time isn't your enemy, but your ally, right? And also when it comes to practicals, I won't talk too long about practicals, but how I study, and Manada and Zainab as well, how we study practicals was not every single practical issue is going to be mentioned in the resource book, right? Not every single issue is going to be mentioned in the resource book, in your practical handbook. So what you have to do is take past papers, take model papers like FWC, Model Tour, go through the schemes, and take a separate book. And in that book, under each experiment, for example, the first experiment is a measuring instrument experiment. The eighth experiment is under hydrostatics. So for each experiment, write down all the practical issues, all the extra points that are present in these schemes separately for each experiment. At the end of the day, when the exams are like when the exams draw near, you'll have an entire book on practical issues alone. Going through them once or twice will help you answer basically any question they throw at you as well, right? And there's another question that students often ask is, how many times should I repeat my past paper? How many times should I repeat my past paper? So how many rounds of past paper should I do? So one of the advices that I got was, before your exams for physics, you have to at least do one past paper 3 times, right? Which seemed impossible to me, because you have more than 20 years of past papers. So to do the past papers alone, while doing model papers, while doing the other subjects, while learning theory, while watching recordings, more than around 60 times felt impossible to me. And I don't think that with our schedules, with managing school and classes, it is possible. So I didn't do that. So then one of my teachers told me, don't do that, because if you take a past paper, what's the first question usually in? It's in units and dimensions. Why do you have to repeat a units and dimensions question 60 times? Like, what's the reason? There's going to be very easy questions in the past papers as well. Some questions, they're direct questions. They might ask you, what is not a standard unit? The direct questions that don't really have that much of theory behind them, but rather directly you can answer them. Why do you have to repeat those questions 60 times or 20 times? That's no point. When they say repeat question, when they say repeat past papers, choose the questions that are hard for you, because they're subjective. You can find, some people can find mechanics difficult, some people can find mechanics easy. It's subjective, right? Choose the questions that are difficult for you and only repeat those until you have a crystal clear idea in your head, until you have a proper explanation in your head, until you have a proper flow in your head. And unless, if it's not the case, for easy questions like units and dimensions, you're just going to waste your time doing the question over and over again. And when the exams draw near, however, 2 months or 1 month before the exam, take a full paper, print a full, paper, PDF of a paper, and then make sure you try full papers within timing as well. But that's like 2 or 3 months before the exams. The past papers, I'm talking about the last 5 years, at least the month before the exams, do the last 5 years at least full papers in physics, chemistry, and biology. At least the last 5 years, right? But right now, when you have time, there's no need for you to repeat easy questions. Rather, instead, just choose the hard questions. And I think that's about the main issues that you guys had addressed in physics. And with that, we will be moving on to chemistry. Nada, can you give them an overall idea on what the issues they're going to face in chemistry and they're facing right now in chemistry as well?
Yes, so before I begin addressing about chemistry, I should say, for the people who are staying till the end, I'm really, really grateful for that. I mean, this is the thing, we are actually trying to cover as much as possible, and trying to cover all your concerns within this meeting. So that is our main motive. So even if you want to come back to any of the problems specifically, you can always rewatch the video to the specific topic in the YouTube link. Okay, so with that, I will move on to chemistry. So I'll try to address most of the issues that you guys have sent regarding chemistry, most of them. So first of all, I will be moving on with, according to your Google Form problems. The first thing most of you all mentioned was regarding organic chemistry. So yes, organic chemistry, first and foremost, you have to be very clear with the theory. You have to have a proper theory knowledge where you can learn, when you can learn from a class, all the reactions, all the mechanisms, you have to have that base. Okay, and the most crucial part is being able to do the conversions. which is what most people find difficult. They say, even though I can understand the theory, I can understand what Sir is teaching. And when Sir is doing the conversions, I can understand. But the problem is when I try to do it on my own, I can't do the conversion. So at one point, I think we all have gone through that phase. Even I myself, I have struggled with it at the beginning. So it's not something, unusual. We all have gone through that. So it's not something new. It's okay. So different people have different ways to cope with that. So some tutors, what they do is they give one step conversions first, and then they proceed by giving complex conversions one after the other. But that may take some time, and I don't think that practice alone would be able to boost you. So there are some people, like my friends, I have known that they practice through papers. Okay, they use papers as their basic way to practice the conversion. So through the papers, they have learned, and they have repeatedly gone through the conversions, and that's how they proceed. So it's different, it's subjective, but something that I did is kind of unique, to be honest. I should say it worked for me. It worked for me, so you can try it. So first of all, what you all have to do is, especially in organic chemistry, take a sheet of paper. You have now learned everything, right? You might have learned everything in your theory. So take a sheet of paper, and if you, for example, take one organic compound, let's say alkyl halide. So put alkyl halide in the middle and write all the reactions from which alkyl halide can be prepared. Okay, so all the preparation reactions of alkyl halide, you write it from the left side. And then you write all the reactions the alkyl halide can undergo on the right hand side. So within a single chart, you have whatever reaction is that is involving alkyl halides. So likewise, you have to do it for all the compounds, organic compounds that is present in your syllabus. And now what you should do is you can try questions. Now, if you are learning through questions, you can try the questions by referring to that paper. It's okay. You can refer to the scheme, proper marking scheme. You can refer to the paper, and by using that method, you can by using that as a reference, look at it and do the conversion. It's okay, because most people, the problem is they can't, like, kind of predict what is going to come next. The organic compound that can come next in order to go to your final product, that is the problem. So you can't figure out what comes next, because you don't know, like, you won't be able to know that. So it's okay. So first of all, what you should do is you have to familiarize yourself with the reactions. That is why I would suggest is to look at the mind maps that you have. So you can't be always like turning over your books in order to do that. It is going to be hectic. So that is why you have these mind maps. And the thing that I did was, I think you guys know about this app called Kahoot that I have frequently talked about. So in this app, what I did is it actually took a lot of time, but in the process also I was able to memorize certain things. So I input all the reactions, all the organic reactions, preparation reactions, as well as the reactions which those organic compounds go through as a quiz, and I used to play it. So that was my way of studying, actually. So you can try it if you want, but it's going to take a lot of time. I can share the link if you want in the group, so you can try it. I think there might be one or two errors, like in the in the diagram. So apart from that, you can try it if you want. If it works for you, I guess it will be really worth it. So yes, so that's what I used to do. And apart from that, there's an app called Ankai Flashcards. So I even use some flashcard method in order to remember all the organic reactions. So that was my way of studying organics in order to remember the reactions. The problem is, now to remember the reactions, you can't just sit and write and memorize, because it's not something that you can say and repeat so that you get to memorize. You can't do that, right? So that is why I use this method of quiz, because I didn't know a way to remember these stuffs. Fine. So that is how I improved the conversions. I looked through the mind maps at the beginning. When I did the questions, it was difficult. But when you do the questions, like you always say, you have to practice the questions at a stretch in chemistry. Like take 10 questions and take 10 conversions, practice at a stretch. Okay, practice it at a stretch every day, and then you will eventually be okay. So at the beginning, it's okay to look at the scheme, look at the mind map. It's okay. And then you will most likely be able to figure out later, once you have a bit of experience looking into the scheme and looking into the flow that you can develop by looking at these answers. You will be able to figure out, okay, what should come next after alcohol in order to go to this particular final product. So your brain will say that it is going to like kind of analyze that. So somehow just look at the final product and look at the starter compound, the ending, the first one, and you have to analyze how does it come. So I can elaborate more using examples, but I have the other topics to talk about as well. So just try out this method, and it did work for me. So, and then there's also something else I have to say, like just an example. So, for example, let's say in the initial compound, there are just two carbons. In the final compound, you have four carbon. So, the most likely conversion that would have happened there in the middle is aldol synthesis. So, the doubling of the carbon. So, likewise, there are some specific reactions which are the ones which are enabling the final product to come. So, try to check on that. So, check for the carbon change and look, has the carbon number changed? Yes, that means there should have been some mechanism where you change the carbon number. Has it been doubled? Then it is aldol synthesis. So, something like that, you should be able to find out that particular way, and you can do this. You can do this by practice. Fine. So work smart. Organics, it's not going to come to you by just learning theory. You need a lot of practice. And one more important thing, most people asked me was about the last 20 statements. So most people have an issue on that. So even I had an issue on that, to be honest. So I used to score in the first 30. Honestly, I scored almost full. And in the last 20, I had this problem. I used to lose a lot of marks. So what I did there was I took the resource book. Okay, I actually figured this out at the end, like around 2 weeks before my exam. So you guys have plenty of time now to correct that mistake. So I took the last I took the questions. I mean the lessons where these 20 questions are frequently asked from, and I took those resource books and I read them. Actually, I took a few. I mean 2 to 3 days, and I read them completely. And the statements which I felt like were which could be asked, okay, which could be asked as a statement question in the MCQs, I wrote them down. So likewise for organics, I had about 90. For physical there were more, and even there were some for inorganics as well. So to be honest, all the last statements that came into my final paper were from the ones that I made. So it's not something that I predicted, but it is just working smart so that I can cover as much as possible to expand my marks. So you can try something like that if you are weak in the last 20 statement questions regarding theory. Okay. And yes, so one more thing that you can do is, even Avasha did this. We took like final 10 papers, like past 10 years of papers. We compiled all the last 10 MCQs or 20 MCQs, and we did it at a stretch. So this also improved me, and it gave me an additional push. I also did some of the final papers of some sirs, like also compile them, because the more I felt like the more statement questions that I did, I was able to improve better. So I compiled some additional model papers as well, and I did them. So the problem, so if you are going wrong in the last 20 theoretical MCQs, that is because of your unfamiliarity with the resource book. So make sure, even if you are not following, like there are some people, to be honest, I wasn't following the resource book from the beginning. So I wouldn't say, I don't take that as an advice from me. Okay. So I came to know that at the end, to be honest, about these statements and all. So make sure you are familiar with them, especially for industrial and environmental. You have to stick with the resource book. Okay. So I think that's all I can say for organics and last 20 MCQs. And now let's move on to inorganic chemistry. So inorganic chemistry also. Now, what I felt these most people from the Google Forms is they were sending me the lessons that they were learning currently, that it is difficult. But trust me, if you practice questions, it's going to be easy. It's just because you're going through that phase, you feel it is difficult. Okay. So anyway, I'll say this. So inorganic also for each of the blocks. P block, S block, D block, and within that you have the groups, right? So let's say group 15. So in group 15, you have reactions and you have identifications. So for all of them also, make some charts, make some flow charts, make some mind maps. So with that, you will be able to recall quickly the reactions. And if you're finding it hard to remember the reactions and all, balance reactions and all, this is why I told you, go through the last 10 years of papers, do it at a stretch, and you will be able to figure out what are the reactions they frequently target on. So that is an additional point for you, but don't only look at them, look at the others as well. But you will know what to deal with, frequently and prioritize it accordingly. Okay, so whenever you're practicing, it's okay to look at the book. So please don't hesitate. Don't think that you should be an expert at the beginning itself. It's okay, like I said, every expert was once an amateur. So allow yourself to be a beginner, allow yourself to fall, and then only you can rise. You can't go from zero to just stop in one day. So you have to make some effort. So allow that, allow the progress to happen. It's okay. And then eventually you will figure out. So you can do this for inorganic as well, make some charts specifically, and you will be able to improve likewise. And another thing is about chemical calculations. So chemical calculation is something that most people go wrong. Ninth B question, right? So there's a format of doing that. Okay. So what you have to do is, first of all, you have to put the question into a diagrammatic representation. In the paper, in the answer sheet, if you draw it, they won't cut marks. Do whatever you want. They need the answer steps, that's all. So before that, what you have to do is draw the diagram, put the flow, okay? Because you can't be always going now. If you are like trying to write the reactions, you can't be always going back and look at the question, right? Because the question is going to be so big that when you're starting to read it, you will zone out when you're finishing. So while you are drawing a proper flow, you will completely have it, and when you look at it, you know what is happening there. So that is what you have to do. So put a diagram, and from that diagram, you should be able to understand what is happening. And then after that, write all the reactions which are associated with that particular question. Balance it, chemical equations, ionic equations, it doesn't matter, write them all. And then what you have to do is look from where you can find the moles. Okay. So for example, they might give you at the end, usually at the end of the question, they might give you concentration and volume. Okay, and then they may also give you in some other point, they might give you the mass and the molar mass. Okay, so look where you can find the moles. If you have found the point where you can find the moles, now what you have to do is go backwards. You have found the moles. According to the reaction, find the stoichiometry. So from the stoichiometry, find the next moles, find the moles of the reactant, and then that would be connecting to another equation. So that is how you go back to the starting point. So usually they might give you questions from an impure mixture, and they might ask you to find the mass percentage or something like that. So you go backward. That's how you do it. So first of all, each step that you do, don't write the answers. Just put number of moles of barium sulfate, and then stoichiometry, barium sulfate, the stoichiometry between barium sulfate and okay, let's say it was about so you got barium from somewhere else. So stoichiometry between barium sulfate and barium. So it's 1 to 1, and then write the number of moles of barium. So in order to find the original compound, but don't write the answers. First of all, write the steps, write the route to your answer. And then once you have written all the steps, fill the answers. You won't go wrong. And trust me, I have actually, I wasn't doing like that. I wrote the diagram, I drew the diagram, I wrote the reactions, and I just did the question. So, so when I was doing this, my sir told me, so you're going to slow down when you're doing this, because you have to think what you have to do next. And I thought, actually, I was fast. By doing that, I was fast. And then I was like, okay, what if I tried this method and I became more fast? So I did this method and it was working. Like I didn't have to think of for every step, right? So once I have written the step, the calculation was just filling part. So that's something that you can do to speed up, because now inorganic also you have to do, right? So you can't do only chemical calculation in ninth, right? So you have to manage your time. So for that, you can work smart. Fine. And the next thing that I have to, like, I can't, like, explain everything regarding MCQs. I mean, MCQs also, there are some what do you call, patterns present in chemical calculation. So make sure you follow those patterns, because calculations, physical, chemistry, it's all about practice. Practice is what is going to make you perfect. So make sure you have a strong foundation in the theory, and make sure you do as much as questions as possible, enough papers as possible, so that you can practice. To be honest, chemistry, they're not going to like ask you so much of ample amount of ideas like in physics to confuse you. No, chemistry has a pattern. If this is how they ask the question, this is how they are going to ask, by changing the information. That's how they do it. Okay. And then so I hope you have got an idea. So try to implement that and try to do as much questions as possible. That is the main thing. So people who are like 26, they have plenty of time. So you might have completed chemical calculations, I think. So it's an ideal time to compile as many questions as possible and finish off chemical calculations at this point itself, because I have seen people struggling with that particular topic, even though it is the third lesson at the end as well. So, do full papers in an exam environment. That is very important because time management in chemistry is something that most people have talked about. So, you can overcome that only by doing full papers in an exam environment. So, we have mentioned about that exam paper writing centers. So, please go do those papers, sit there every week, do it. It's going to be, I know it will be difficult. There, like Avasha mentioned, there will be days when you feel like you just want to get up from there and come back home. To be honest, I have felt that personally, but I even felt like, no, next week I'm not going to come. This is the last time. But I came next week, and it happened till the end because I knew I was able to improve. I was able to find my flow in what order, if I did the paper, will I be able to score the maximum. So all of that I was able to figure out by doing these full papers. So I really got a good improvement in time management after attending some paper writings every week. So I could figure out the flow, like from which question if I start and from which question if I end, will I be able to complete everything in the shortest time possible? So you have to figure that out as well. And for that, you will have to do some trial and errors. In one paper, you will go down. In the next paper, you will go up. So based on the trial and errors which you will be doing, nobody is going to go and come and judge you for those weekly papers. So you have your own time, decide, do trials, do errors. It's okay. But finally, find the right method for your finals. Okay, so next thing, even somebody has asked me right now, the choice of essays. So now all three of us here, we did organic and inorganic. Okay, so in part two, organic, inorganic was something that all of us did here. And when it comes to the other part A of first part of part two, we did electrochemistry because in the seventh question, there is electrochemistry and B is D block ligands, right? So that wasn't a problem because it's always something that is frequently questioned. But when it comes to fifth and sixth, the physical chemistry parts, all of us, we had this thing, okay? So how we chose was based on the calculation that was present. So anyway, there is going to be a calculation, right, in the fifth and sixth question. So we chose the ones that had the least amount of calculation. That is what we did. Because at the end, they are not going to like judge you whether you have chosen the difficult question and you are not able to complete it. No. Like Avasha said, it's not about impressing the examiner. It's not about impressing the paper marker. You should find out the shortest one and the easiest one and do the one that you feel okay and complete it. So that's how it should be. So the one which had the least amount of calculation, that is what we choose. So what I personally preferred was the fifth question mostly, because fifth question is most probably having a part of energetics and gases in them. And energetics and gases is a lesson you study for a long time. It's the fifth and fourth lesson. So because of that reason, you might be really, really good at it. Like, okay, if you are really good at it. So for me, that's what I felt. I usually chose the fifth question because even if there was a part of equilibrium in it, which we learn at the end, usually it was Kp and Kc or Kd or something like that, which are simple. Unlike acid-base equilibrium, pH curves, and those. It was usually from Kp, Kc, Kd or Ksp, which are simple concepts. So because of that reason, I always went to the fifth question. But again, it depends. So just try to choose the one which has less calculations. That is the best advice I can give you. So if it comes from kinetics also, it's usually easy. So you'll be able to look at the question you will have some experience anyway, right? And then when you look at the question, you will be able to understand, okay, how much calculation will I be needing to do these both questions. So based on that, you can select. So that is what I can tell about selecting the questions for essays. Next thing is about marking schemes. Okay. So marking schemes are very important. So please rely on those marking schemes and frequently check your answers with the marking schemes. Even if you feel like you have explained, you feel like you have almost explained what is there in the marking scheme, don't give marks. If the exact thing in the marking scheme is not there, don't give marks. Be strict on yourself. Be as strict as possible when you are doing at home. Okay. Be as strict as possible when you're doing at home. Don't be lenient. Okay. Don't be so good to yourself, because Now, just because the scheme might be lenient this time, there might be sometimes they might have mentioned in the amendments, the ones which have included the amendments, they might have mentioned the paper marker if it was if it was the one which was taken. Okay, if the student has written this, give the marks as well. But if it is you, don't give the marks, okay? Because in the next paper, they might not say that. Maybe because the probability of how much people have answered might have been low, and that is why they have included that answer as well. But when it comes to your paper, they won't do that. So please make sure when you are correcting, use the marking scheme strictly. And I also forgot to say one more important thing in the choice of essays about environmental chemistry. Many people ask about that. Yes, environmental chemistry. I did them, like I practiced them. I actually learned it at the end, and I practiced them for MCQs, and I tried all the past paper questions. And something that Zainab told me that. The environmental chemistry question is actually time saving. Okay, it's actually time saving. Like you don't have much calculations in there, and yes, you just have to know the theory and you have to answer it easily if you know the theory. So the 10th question. But the problem is the marking schemes on the long run, you can't predict them. You can't predict the marking schemes. They might be strict at times. They may include points. They may not include points. So it's kind of hard to reach 150 there. But for people who find organic and inorganic difficult, I think you can move to industrial chemistry. But reaching 150 through organic and inorganic is possible, is highly possible. So if you are not very good there, so industrial is also okay, where you don't go as low as inorganic and organic, so that is safe. So if you can do that before your exams, if you have, if you know, since they have a lot of theory, if you are learning at the end and if you can manage all those theory at the end, it's okay, and you can try them. But it is actually not really possible. But if some people they cover it early, so likewise, if you have covered it early, then it's fine. Okay. And yes, unlike environmental chemistry, we study, like unlike the environmental chemistry which we study at the end, organic and inorganic, we study it since the beginning. So we have a lot of practice. We practice it for MCQ, the part two, I mean the structured essay, as well as for the essay. So at the end, you develop a really good knowledge in organic and inorganic. So that is another reason why we chose that question. And please, like I said, stick to the resource book as well. Like it is going to help you in MCQ statements. And physical chemistry, like most of you have also asked about that, it's about practice. So another issue that you guys have mentioned that, right? So practice. Some people have said, I feel like I don't have enough practice. Then practice, man. You just have to practice. You know that if you can find your problem, then go and practice. So practice as much as possible. Understand the concept well, and then don't try to memorize everything. Okay, understand through logics, and that's the important point. And practice as much questions as possible, because in chemistry it is patterns. It's not like physics. They are not going to question different varieties of ideas. It's one idea, there will be patterns, and this is how they will be questioning. You will be able to figure that out if you do as many questions as possible. So yes, I think I have almost covered everything as much as possible. So yes, so that's all I can say for chemistry right now. So yes, with that, we're done with all three subjects and the general issues.
Yeah. Okay. One of the best pieces of advice that I have received is that the wise man learns from other people's mistakes. So we've been in our A-level journey for 2.5 years, maybe even more than that. I think around more than 2.5 years, to be honest. Yeah. And we've had plenty of opportunity, time to make a lot of mistakes, to make a lot of flaws in our judgment, to make so many errors, basically. 2.5 years is a long time. But we don't want you to make the same mistakes that we did. Right, so learn from our mistakes as well. So, Zainab, when you look back these 2.5 years, what is the biggest regret you have today? What is the one thing that if you could go back in time and change, the one thing that you would change?
One of my biggest regrets is when I look back my A-level journey, it is not doing enough paper writing sessions in an actual exam environment. Both Avasha and Nada, they were stressing out on the importance of paper writing sessions in the exam center. So by that, by an actual exam environment, I don't mean the quietness in our houses, but a real exam hall with other students around, invigilators walking by, and that competitive atmosphere. These are the exact conditions we face in the final exam, right? And I wasn't used to that kind of stress, to be honest. Even though I timed myself and practiced at home, it wasn't the same. It wasn't the same at all. I truly believe I could have performed much better in the exam hall in my final exam if I had trained myself to face that real exam pressure. So my advice for those who have joined with us today is don't skip those real paper writing sessions in real exam environments. Don't underestimate them because they truly make a big difference. Learn from my mistake, and I want you guys to not repeat the same mistake. That's the biggest regret I have.
Yeah, the more papers you practice, the better results you're going to get. That is something we can never emphasize enough. What about you, Nada? What is the biggest regret you have?
The biggest regret that I have from my A-level journey is attending certain classes where the lessons were unnecessarily dragged out. I felt like if I had planned ahead and if I had proper guidance, I could have covered the content more efficiently and quickly instead of just dragging unnecessarily, and I could have allocated more time for paper practice and time management. Yes.
So it's about that's why you should, before you enter a class, make sure you ask around seniors, people who go to their class currently. Make sure you get the maximum possible information you can about those classes before you attend them. When it comes to me personally, one of the biggest regret I have is another mentioned about the revising part, just revise something within 24 hours. And even Zainab touched up on the importance of revising, especially for biology, within 24 hours so that it sticks into your long-term memory. I didn't do that. Like there were some days where I did it every now and then, not often, not okay, not it wasn't consistent at all. And I regret doing that now because not doing that now um, because it didn't stick into my long-term memory. I had to revise it over and over again just so that it would stick in my head. So not revising a certain section within 24 hours, or better yet, within 8 hours is one of the biggest regrets I have today as well. So make sure you do revise your notes. It's difficult. It's hard to be consistent. It's very difficult to be consistent. But is it worth it? Absolutely, completely 100% worth it, right? But 2.5 years wasn't filled with mistakes as well. There are a lot of things that we did that we are proud of looking back as well. So what's the best thing that you did that you would always encourage other people to do? And what is like the best thing that you did?
The best thing that I actually have done is your regret, is Avasha's regret, to be honest. Uh, I had this habit of revising everything that I studied in my classes within 8 hours. Within 8 hours, yes. So this was actually a habit from my O levels. My science tutor actually said this always. So like I always had this habit. Like right after coming home, I used to take a nap, and somehow, no matter how tired I was, I took the time to read my notes and understand, because I can't emphasize on how helpful it was for me. Because when during that particular day, when you have learned everything fresh, you will have the entire concept of how the particular tutor have explained it to you in your head. And that same flow is not going to be there after a week. So when you are revising just right before the class, if you are revising next week, you will be just reading notes. You won't be able to like remember the flow of how the tutor has explained it to you. Trust me, this is how it works. But if you have revised it within that 8 hours, or at least within the next day, okay, within 24 hours at least, you will not have to revise it again and again later during your A-level period. And this was something very useful for me, mostly in chemistry and physics, because we don't have to really come and memorize the theory there. So I just studied, to be honest, physics theory. I just studied it there, and mostly only if I had doubts, I used to go back and see the theory. Apart from that, it was just that one-time revision that I did. And even for chemistry, it was mostly the one-time revision. And apart from that, when I had doubts, I used to come back and look at it. So I am really, really grateful for that, because it saved a lot of time. Later, I didn't have to come again and frequently repeat it again and again later. Yes.
Like obviously that gave you gave you, I was responsible for a considerable portion of your result as well. We cannot emphasize the importance of revising within 24 hours, or better yet, 8 hours as well. Zaina, what about you? What is the best thing that you did? What's the thing that you're most grateful for looking back?
When I look back at the last 2 to 3 years of my LOL journey, the thing that I'm really, really thankful for is my friends, honestly. Alhamdulillah, we were there for each other through everything during LOS. We shared the resources we had and helped each other out as much as we could. Something I'll never forget is how we even used to call and wake each other up for tahajjud. That's how we started our day. Even when we were all super tired or just not in the mood, somehow we still found the energy to push each other. Like if one of us was slacking, we would send each other questions. For example, 2 chemistry essays per day or 20 biology MCQs, just to keep the momentum going. And towards the end, especially, we came up with this plan in biology. We split up the sections, especially in the last few units, like environmental biology, microbiology, those units especially. We made charts for our topics, and then we just shared them with each other. It saved us so much time and stress also. There was no ego, nothing like that. We weren't competing. We were literally just surviving together. If one person was down, two others would be there to lift up the third person. And honestly, it reminded me how much easier things can get when there's trust, loyalty, and of course when we rely on Allah. We got through it together, alhamdulillah. So yeah, what I would like to remind those who have joined with us today is support your friends, be that friend who helps, who listens. Don't stress thinking, what if they get ahead of me? Just help each other, be kind and be real, because honestly, success feels way better when it's shared. That's the thing that I'm truly grateful for, my friends.
Alhamdulillah. I mean, yeah, like what Zainab mentioned is success feels much better when it's shared. So make sure the people you surround yourself with are the best possible people that are going to support you throughout your journey. If they are not helpful, they're not supportive, then you're better off without them, right? That sounds harsh, but honestly, you're better off without them. And for me, I think the thing that I am most proud of is for 2.5 years, every day I studied. In the sense, I didn't study like 12 hours every day or 13 hours every day. Even if it was like 10 minutes some days, or like five, less than that. Even maybe I just did one single MCQ question every day. Every day I did study something. That consistency was maintained every single day for the last 2.5 years. So alhamdulillah for that. Even during festivals, even during Eid and during Ramadan, fasting, everything. Every day I would dedicate at least 5 to 10 minutes if I couldn't even if I couldn't study for hours on end. To study, that consistency was maintained until my A levels. So that is something that I'm really grateful for as well.
Before we wrap things up, there's something I really want to say on behalf of our team. First of all, a huge thank you to everyone who sent in questions and shared your thoughts through the Google form. Seriously, we appreciated it so much. It really helped us understand what's on your mind, and it meant a lot that you trusted us with that. That being said, we also want to say sorry if we couldn't get to everything you asked. It's not that we didn't care, it's just that in some cases we genuinely felt that we weren't the right people to give proper advice. We didn't want to give you half answers or say something that we weren't sure about. Still, we really hope that whatever we did manage to share today gave you a bit of clarity, a little motivation, or at least a place to start from in your A-level journey. That's all we really wanted. That was our true intention behind the session, to pass on whatever little we've learned, whatever little we know from our own experience, in the hope that it might help you, that it might help you out. So again, thank you so much for your questions, your trust, and for joining us today, joining with us today. And we are really sorry for not being able to respond to every concern, but know that we genuinely tried our best.
Before we wrap things up, I have a final message to my future doctors and achievers. Before I let you go, I want you to pause and just breathe. Close your eyes for a second. You are not just another student sitting for an exam. You are someone with a purpose, a dream that is bigger than you, a dream to wear that white coat, not just as a symbol of knowledge, but as a symbol of hope. To walk through every hospital corridors where every heartbeat, every tear, every life is going to depend on you. But let's be honest, dreams like that, they don't come easy. They come at a cost. They demand sacrifices that no one claps for. Early mornings when the world is asleep, nights when it feels so heavy, not from tiredness, but from the weight of everything you are carrying alone. Moments feel like no one is going to understand you and realize what you are fighting for. But hear me, the pressure you are under right now, it's not to break you, it's to carve you, my dear friends, to shape you into someone unshakable, someone who just doesn't pass the exams but becomes the kind of person the world needs when everything is falling apart. To the 27 batch, you are at the beginning, and beginnings are the most powerful. This is where you build your base, your habits, your mindset. You have time, you have fire. Use it well. To the 26 batch, you are in the thick of it. The storm is loud, but storms don't destroy strong roots, they strengthen them. Don't run. Stand tall, hold your ground. To the 25 batch, you are standing right at the edge of your final mountain. This climb, it is brutal. But remember, the wave at the top is only for those who never gave up. You're almost there. Don't look down, look forward. And to the repeaters, you guys are exceptional. You're the bravest of them all. You chose to get up when it hurt the most. We are walking this road again, not because you failed, but because you still believe, and that belief, that is everything. This journey is going to push you to your breaking point, but promise me, never forget why you started. Remember the version of you who dared to dream of saving lives. Hold on to that. So tonight, when you are closing your books, look into your reflection and say with full fire in your eyes, I am not giving up today. Not today, not ever. I am born for this. Because one day someone will hold your hand in the hospital bed, tears in your eyes, and whisper, thank you, doctor, you saved me. And that moment, my dear friends, every single sleepless nights, every single tear, every sacrifice, it will all be worth it at that moment just by hearing those words. So study with heart, stand with courage, and never forget who you are becoming. With this, we have come to the end of the session. Thank you all for joining, and we would love to hear a feedback from all of you guys. So you could personally send or you could send in the group. We would love to hear feedbacks. You could send to any three of us. We are the admins of the group. So yes, good night, have a nice day, and have a bright future ahead. Looking to hear your names as outstanders in your batch.